Here with Larry Sharp at the Matcha Factory. Once again, thanks for having us here. It's a great honor and privilege to be sitting here with you. You've been responsible for a lot of guys breaking the business. You've been around the business for how many decades? Since the 70s, right?
Yeah, well, the first guy I trained was, I guess in 1975, was Tony Atlas.
Okay.
And I didn't train him at a school. He was a Virginia State wrestling champion, and the office in Charlotte wanted to make him a wrestler,
Okay.
and they knew that I had an amateur background. So like, Larry, can you come to the YMCA and work with him and, help get him ready? So that's actually probably the first guy I can remember training. Well, I take it back. I trained King Kong Bundy years before
We're
that.
going to talk about all this.
Okay. I'm trying to keep it in order, so.
Yeah, no, let's start from the beginning. Let's talk about your memories watching wrestling as a child. Where were you born and raised?
I grew up in a little town called Repapa, and then later moved to Gibbstown. And, couldn't wait for Saturdays to watch wrestling. And then the first time I got to go to the matches my dad took me, it was Buddy Rogers versus Rocca.
Wow.
And I was thrilled just to be there. And then, since they were the guys that they were pushing on television, that they were the guys that I focused on. But later on that night, there was a little diner right here in this town, and Wild Red Berry came in. And I was 8 years old, and I went to him and said, "What do I got to do to be a professional wrestler?" And he's like, "You need to get at least 10 years amateur experience." And fortunately, I lived in the right town, at the right time. And I started in 7th grade, wrestled in 7th and 8th grade, 4 years of high school. Then I went to junior college, and then up to Trenton State, and, it worked out for me.
Now, you had an incredible record as an amateur. You want to talk about that?
No. It's in the past. I'm proud of it. Don't misunderstand me. Because I wrestled for a relatively good college, and I wrestled some good guys. There was one guy I could not beat. His name was Joel Kisler. Now, how ironic is that you talk about the guy that kicked your ass all the time? But he would beat me, he would advance, and then Chris Taylor would beat him. So that was the way it went. But Joel was a very nice guy, and I wonder what he's doing every once in a while.
Were you ranked number 4 in the NCAA or no?
I was seeded 4th.
Okay.
Seeded 4th.
Okay.
So my college didn't think that I was worth sending to the Nationals, so they didn't want to spend the money. But I had the number 4 seed that year, and Backlund had number 1. And King Kong Bundy's brother, Chris Pallies, had number 2.
Oh, wow. So there's history between you and his family, basically.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Did you play any other sports growing up, or were you just strictly amateur wrestling?
Football. Well, I went out for football to get in shape for wrestling.
So that worked out, definitely. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was fun. Defense is all I wanted to play because all I wanted to do was get the guy with the ball. That was the fun part. I didn't want to make any holes open up so he could go by me and get all the glory. I wanted to catch him. And I can remember my dad being all PO'd that I wasn't playing both ways. I couldn't make him understand that I didn't want to play both ways. I just wanted to have fun. And he punched the football coach in the mouth because he asked him why I wasn't playing both ways, and the coach told him I was lackadaisical. My dad didn't know what that meant, so I just got pissed off and punched him in the mouth.
Oh, wow. So I guess, how did you make the transition from amateur wrestling to pro wrestling? You met Red Berry.
Right, well, like I said, when I met Red Berry, he said you got to get 10 years amateur experience. And in this town right here is where all of the wrestlers lived back in the days of the WWF.
Perfect.
Yeah, they all lived here. The Mongols lived here. Smasher Sloan lived here. Bob Orton Sr. lived here. They all lived here because the territory at that time didn't go any further north than Maine or any further south than Washington, D.C., or any further west than Pittsburgh. So if they were here,
perfect.
It was a central location, yeah. And it just happened that they settled down in a wrestling town, and Bill Watts used to come down to wrestling practice.
Wow. And how did you meet Gorilla Monsoon early on?
Well, Well, Red Berry brought him to one of my high school matches to watch me wrestle because he thought I had some talent.
And from there, they picked you up, and
No, from there, kind of like went away, and Red Berry had retired, and I got a letter from him, and he said, if you still want to be a professional wrestler, I'm coming to New York, and I'll introduce you to the people that you need to know. So I got all excited about it. I'm doing push-ups and sit-ups and jogging and all that stuff, and I never heard from him. And I knew where Gorilla Monsoon lived in Willingboro, so I went over with this letter, and I'm like, you know, he said he was going to come and introduce me to some people. You're the only guy if you remember me. And I told him about him coming to the high school. He's like, yeah, I remember. Well, what happened was Red Berry died like a week before he was supposed to get here.
oh, wow.
And nobody ever called me and told me or anything. You know, I was just a little fan Mark kid that,
Right.
you know, he kept in touch with.
So, you hooked up with Gorilla, or did you
Right.
go to New York? Okay, so he pretty much took you under his wing.
He took me under his wing and did everything he could for me.
Do you consider Gorilla your mentor?
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about your training. So you meet Gorilla. What happens from there?
Well, I meet him, and he said, you don't want to do this, kid. He goes, it's a terrible business. You're going to meet some of the assholes, biggest assholes you've ever met in your life. He said, but you will meet some of the nicest people that you've ever met in your life. And I just pestered him and pestered him and pestered him. And so he had me come into Wildwood, and I would put up the ring and work out a little bit. And then I had an opportunity, Fuji fixed it up for me to go to Portland, Oregon for a week.
For Don Owens?
Well, it was Don Owens' territory, but I went out there and I worked with a guy named Haru Sasaki for a week. He came down to the sportatorium and trained me every day. So when I came back the next weekend to train in Wildwood, you know, I knew all this stuff. And he's like, where you been?
Now, were you smart to the business at this point in time, or not yet?
Well, I think I was smart to the business when I was an amateur.
Okay.
And you know, it's like, wasn't any great secret, but that never like let the breath out of me. You know what I'm saying? It's like, this is what these guys do, this is what they are. And one of the things, and I don't want to mention the name, said, Larry, you'll never have to worry if anybody gives you any shit in there. Snatch them, you know? So,
Right.
like, I always felt comfortable in the ring because I knew I could take care of myself.
Was there a backlash from your peers in amateur wrestling for turning to pro wrestling at all?
Absolutely.
What do they try to tell you, discourage you?
Well, they probably the most depressing one was I was just sitting out with a bunch of guys one day, and an amateur wrestler from town here, and we're still friends, and I talk to him all the time, just looked at me and goes, how could you? You know, and that said it all for everybody.
Right. Okay.
But when they started announcing from Paulsboro, New Jersey on with the shows, that went away.
Put over to town.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What was your training schedule like early on?
Well, you just trained all the time. I mean, Fuji was a idiot as far as training. He would just push you as far as you could go because it wasn't his sweat. You know, he thought it was funny. One time he told me, he stopped his car and said, I saw a wallet. So I got out to get the wallet, and he goes, you have to jog now. He made me jog.
Wow. And was he from around here too, Mr. Fuji?
Well, he was living here working the territory.
Okay. Now, as far as training, so basically you would be on the road training at the different house shows or arena shows back in the day. You didn't go to an actual school, and you were pretty much going to different towns, getting there early. Is that what would take
Well,
place?
that's before I even got on the road. I mean, like at first right here is where I would go put up the ring and I would train. You know, like I would drive Fuji to North Attleboro, Massachusetts. They had a boxing ring. And my first day in the ring, I took 100 slams, 100 backdrops, 100 bumps over the top rope, and 100 turnbuckles on a boxing ring.
Huh.
But I didn't care. This is what I had to do.
I was going to ask you, did you ever want to quit?
Yes.
And what made you stick it out?
Stupid. It's just this town, Paulsboro, you do not quit. That's not in their vocabulary.
What was the hardest thing for you to pick up for yourself? Was it taking the bumps, or was it learning in the ring psychology?
The hardest thing to pick up was, and I probably never really picked it up, but it was seeing other people kiss ass to advance their careers when other people, not only myself, but a lot of other people had more talent, and they would be by the wayside because they weren't ass kissers.
Right. Who were some of the guys that you consider ass kissers from, I guess, Vince Senior days? in New York?
Well, let me give that some thought, because
Okay.
I don't want to accuse anybody unjustly.
No problem, no
There might
problem.
be too many to pick from, I don't know.
Was Mr. Fuji the one guy that was pretty much your main trainer, or were there other guys in the territory at the time that would take you under the wing and you would learn some stuff from?
Well, Gino, he was like my guiding light, and Fuji was there to make sure that I learned how to get it done. So they were pretty much the two that did it.
So as far as training goes, how long did you train for until you felt comfortable of being in front of a crowd?
I felt comfortable in front of a crowd right away.
Right away?
Yeah,
Okay.
that wasn't an issue. I mean, right here in school, we get 1,000 people to wrestle match.
Right, right. Now, who did you travel with? Was it just Gino, or was it Mr. Fuji?
Well,
or-
I would go with Gino sometimes. I would go with Fuji other times. Made a couple trips with Lonnie Main and Pete Sanchez, guys like that.
Okay. Where did you spend most of your early career in? Would it be New York and in the territories around here? Boston? Jersey?
Well, no, I went to, at the time, Bruno had opened up his own territory, and that was upstate New York.
Right.
And it was like Syracuse, Rochester, and places like that, and it came down as far as Pittsburgh. So I went up there and worked for 3 months, and then the territory wasn't succeeding, so he closed it down, and I left from there and went to Florida.
Well, was it for Eddie Graham, or?
Yeah,
Okay. Before you
Harley
went
was the booker,
Who was?
Harley Race.
Okay. Let's talk about Bruno Sammartino. What are some of your early memories of Bruno, and what was he like outside the ring?
Well, he's a nice guy, very laid back, unpretentious, just a regular guy, it was never like, I'm Bruno. He was never one of those guys. He was just one of the boys.
When he was running his own territory, was he already working for Vince Sr. at the time, or was this?
Well, they had to fall one out, and, at that time they were at odds.
So what year was this around? Did he already have his run?
That'd
or
be
was this
like
after?
74, 75.
So that was before his run, then, right?
No, it was after.
It was
then.
after his run.
Yeah, I mean, his run was from 63 to 71, 72 was his big run.
Okay. From Bruno's territory, did you learn anything there at all? As far as you're always learning in this wrestling business, so.
Yeah, I'd just keep your mouth shut and do what you're told. Cicluna showed me a lot. He wasn't a great worker, but his experience of how to handle promoters and be in the locker room, like he could never show me a short arm scissors, but he could tell me what to look out for and what guys were going to stab you in the back and, what guys were assholes and stuff like that.
Any memorable stories from the Pittsburgh territory?
There's a couple. You had to give me a couple minutes. I know I'm on the way to the ring one time, and I had this robe that was worth about $2,500. It was gold spun silk, and I wore it to the ring, and I felt something scratching the back of my neck. Well, when I got up in the ring, there was a coat hanger hanging on the back of my collar,
Right.
and I looked back, and all the boys were laughing at me. So I just took it off and I hung it up, and I sent it back. But the ribs were okay.
Right. Now you went down to Florida. You mentioned. Was that on your own doing? You said Bruno's territory pretty much closed up, or?
Bruno's territory closed up, so I called up Gino and they're closing up here. I need a place to go. What can you do for me? And he sent me down to Florida.
And you worked for Eddie Graham. What was Eddie like? Some say he's probably the best finished man in the business.
Well, he was very standoffish. I was a rookie. I had 3 months in the business. He had no time for me.
Right.
And even Harley. And to this day, I break Harley's balls about it because all I did every night was what I was told. And it was myself and a guy named Beauregard wrestling in Fort Lauderdale against Haystack Calhoun and Johnny Weaver. Well, I had these long tights on, and when I pull them off, I got a pop out of the crowd. And I mean, it was better than Calhoun's, it was better than Weaver's, and it was obvious that it was. And I was a guy just in the business for 3 months, because when I pulled those tights down, it said "kiss this" across the ass of my pants, right?
Right.
So Calhoun went back to the office and said that I humiliated the wrestling fans and blah, blah, blah. And the next thing you know, I got fired.
Oh wow. So you weren't there very long.
No, so, I got my notice, and of course, they just jobbed me out for 2 weeks. And I can remember being in Jacksonville on the way back to New Jersey, and Calhoun says, well, did you learn anything while you were down here, boy? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, what was that? And I said, not to let my ass get more attention than your face.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, the whole locker room loved it, but he didn't care too much. But I didn't give a rat's ass. He'd already got me fired.
What was Harley Race, early memories of Harley? What was he like as a booker?
Well, it was Harley Race. He never worked in New York territory, so I'd only seen him like when I was on vacation in Missouri, and I caught some of that TV, things like that. But, he was good. He was good. I had no bones to pick with him about that. He did what he was right, what he thought was right for the company.
So from Florida, where did you end up after Florida? You worked for Stu Hart too a little bit.
Yeah. But I went from Florida to Charlotte.
Okay.
And went to work for George Scott.
Memories of working with George.
And that was the greatest experience I ever had in my life.
Why is that?
Well, that's where I learned how to work.
Okay.
In Florida, they had Mike Graham, a midget, 5'8", beat me in 15 seconds on TV. What are you going to learn?
Right.
Nothing. Okay. But when I got to Charlotte, George Scott put me in the ring with guys like Rick McGraw and guys that could work. And it was like, give me 30 minutes. And in 30 minutes, you learn how to read a crowd, you learn how to work the crowd. And that's where, and then as soon as you got back into the locker room, he was standing there and he pointed out every mistake that you made. And that's how you learn. That's why I appreciate him so much.
You also hung with Ric Flair. You were pretty much Rick's running mate too, right?
For a while, yeah, I guess you could say that.
What was Rick like? What was your early memories of meeting Ric Flair?
Just one of the guys, He was a lot of fun to be with. We both had matching limousines at one time, which was pretty fun.
Oh, wow.
And
the office paid for that, or is that you guys out of your own pocket?
out of our own pocket.
Okay.
Out of our own pocket. And
You guys were doing that well back then?
well, Flair was doing that well, and I was in the auto body repair shop business before I got into wrestling with my father. And he came across a Total limousine, and he fixed it up, so I got it at the right price.
Right.
And back then, the guys would pay 3.5 cents a mile to ride to the towns, and you're driving 2,000 miles a week. So, I would take a lot of guys to the towns and, actually make money just on my transportation.
All right, that's awesome. Were you ever mistaken for Rick? Because you guys had a similar look early on.
Yes,
And
yes.
You want to talk about that?
Well, yeah.
I was going to ask you about that.
Okay, have I told you about this before?
No, but I heard some stories. So.
Okay, well, we were at, back then there was no, you couldn't get shots and beers at a bar. It was a bring your own bottle. So like when you went into a place, you had to have your own bottle, or, you could buy beer. But anyway, it was also a casino, and I'm sitting next to Angelo Mosca. And this girl comes up and says, Rick, how about an autograph? And I'm like, I'm sorry, hon, I'm not Ric Flair. And she said it 3 or 4 times. I'm like, hon, I'm Larry Sharp, I'm not Ric Flair. So Mosca, breaking my balls, goes, come on, Rick, sign the autograph. So I'm like, okay. So I signed the autograph, and 20 minutes later, I'm out in the limousine fucking her, and she's like, fuck me, Rick, fuck me. And I'm like, who's the best fuck there at you? You are, Rick. And it wasn't even me, so he got the credit for it.
That's awesome. So that's a good benefit. Was there any ever detriments for looking like Rick at all, or no?
No, I mean, there was so much heat down there. I had bought a new Coupe de Ville, it was 1976. We bought 13 new Cadillacs in one day, all the boys down there.
Wow.
And I went to an arena and I wrestled Tony Atlas, who I just had got done training. And we left the arena, and I got my top sliced, and all, the windows broke out of the car and headlights broke out. I had to drive home with like one headlight on and stuff like that. But when I did get back, I will say that the office did the right thing, and that, they paid for all the damages.
Wow. Yeah, fans down there are pretty crazy. They took
Yeah.
How, as far as working in the Carolinas, who did you travel with?
I would travel with Valentine, Juan Sebastian, who was a great guy to travel with. El Gaucho, I don't know if you know him or not.
I've heard of him.
And Brute Bernard, just a variety of guys, whoever was on the card.
What are your early memories about Greg Valentine?
Quiet. He's always was a quiet guy.
Now, were you there when the plane crash happened?
Yes.
What are your memories of that story?
Well, I was in the car with Art Nelson, and I can't remember the 2 other guys, but we were on the way to Wilmington. And a lot of times I rode on that plane with them. But of course, when people from the office or people higher up on the card went, they would let me fly for $40. It was like they rented the plane, and if there was a seat, it was like, Larry, goes $40. You know, they'd probably give it to the pilot or something. I don't know what they do with it.
Right.
And I'd give them $40. And that day I went, and they're like, Larry, Bobby Brunkers is going to go. So, you know, you got to drive. I'm like, okay. And so I'm driving. We're on the way to Wilmington, and a news flash came on, said plane crash went down in Wilmington, and right away Art Nelson says, that's wrestlers. And it was Valentine and Flair. We went straight to the hospital and visited them and
Right.
see how it was going.
Who passed away in that crash then?
The pilot.
Okay. None of the boys. I know that.
No.
Rick survived.
It was the pilot. I think his name was Freddie. He was a very nice guy.
How do you compare the territory as far as like travel with the Carolinas compared to working New York, as far as the schedule goes?
Work in New York now or work in New York then?
Back then.
Back then it was pretty much the same. You know, you jumped in a car with 3 other guys and away you went.
Okay.
And after a while, you know, you developed a rapport. You knew who you wanted to ride with, who you didn't want to ride with. And there was always an occasion where you had no choice. You know, you had a choice. You can go by yourself or go with somebody you don't like.
What were your early goals around this period of time? Did you want to go back to New York, or did you just want to work the territories?
Well, Monsoon told me early on, if you want to be a success, get out of here. Go someplace else,
That
make
way
your
they
mistakes.
they want to bring you back.
Mhm.
Okay. From Florida, where did you end up? In the Carolinas, and then the Carolinas, you ended up where?
From the Carolinas, I went to Texas and worked for Red Bastien
Okay.
and Fritz von Erich. And I was down there for 3 months, and he's like, you think you can train my son Kevin? So that's when I trained Kevin von Erich. He was the second guy that I trained. First it was Tony Atlas in Charlotte, then it was Kevin von Erich. And of course, like the third or fourth day in, he broke my shoulder. And if you go online with Kevin now and tell him that you talked to me, the first thing he'll be saying is, did he tell you that I broke his shoulder?
How did that happen?
Give me a monkey flip and didn't give me a big enough boost. You know, it was just an accident.
Did you see that he wanted to be in the business? Because, you know, you hear all the stories all the time about Fritz being very hard on the kids. And, you know, some of the younger ones like Mike and the other one, I forgot his name, the younger one, the youngest one, they didn't want to be in the business. And the dad kind of like made them.
I really didn't see that part of it. You know, I
Chris
pretty much just showed up at the arena, and whoever they had on the card there was on the card.
Right. Okay.
You know, politics is something, once you start getting into that kind of stuff, can be bad.
Right. I'm sure you were around Curry Von Erich at a young age when he was young.
Yeah, but I really don't remember him. You know, I remember Kevin, but I don't remember Gary that much.
What about David Von Erich? Because he was the oldest and he was the first.
Well, David, you know, David is the one that I got started. He's the very first one that I trained.
David Von Erich?
Yeah.
He was pretty established at the point, or?
No, he wasn't established at all. He'd never had a match in his life.
Oh, wow.
And he had the most esteemed wrestling judges in front of him. When I trained him, his first match was in front of his father, Jim Barnett, and I guess it was Johnny Weaver was the other person. There was just 3 people sitting in the sportatorium watching us work.
Right.
And, you know, we had like a good, solid 15-minute match. Of course, I had him beat me with the claw to make his old man happy. And that was it.
Getting back to David Von Erich, did you see the potential in him early on? Because some say he was pretty much, you know, the best worker of the 4.
Well, he was fine. You know what I'm saying? In this business, I wish there was a greater test to get people into this business. I mean, in roller derby, at least you have to know how to roller skate.
Right. That's true.
Is there anything else I could say that makes it any clearer than that?
That's true. What was the Texas territory like as far as travel?
It was brutal, but it was fun. You know, you only worked in West Texas.
Because
You know?
Funks were the opposition, right?
Yeah. Well, they weren't opposition. It was just a separate territory. There wasn't any heat there.
Right.
As a matter of fact, Dory Funk came down and worked with me. And the next thing he knows, he goes, how'd you like to come over to our territory for a while? Which to me spoke volumes, because for Dory Funk to want to hire me out of the clear blue like that, not recruiting or not, you know, pushing myself on them.
Right.
You know, that was a pretty important step in my career. Like, man, this guy wants me, so, you know, I might be doing something right.
Did you take him up on the offer?
Absolutely.
Okay. Fritz okayed it? There was no problems there at all? Or?
Well, I broke my shoulder with Kevin, So I was off anyway, you know, like he'd come down and express interest in me, and like the next day I broke my shoulder, so I'm just sitting around like that. They give me enough time to be off.
Right. And did you go back to work for Fritz again after that?
No, no, I didn't go back to Texas until I took Bigelow down there in '86.
Okay. Yep. We're definitely going to talk about that. You also got to work Puerto Rico
Yes,
with, I think your tag team partner at the time was.
Dynamite Jack Evans,
Yep, Dynamite Jack Evans.
the best tag team partner a guy could ask for.
How did you guys hook up?
We're in the locker room making TV in Philadelphia for Vince. And Jack comes up to me and he goes, Larry, he goes, Vince just told me to find out where you get your tights and for me to get some just like yours. Like there was no meeting, no, do you guys want to work together? He just told Jack to buy what I had, and then he started putting us together as a team.
And you guys were called the actual Hollywood Blondes.
Well, some people called us out. I don't ever remember getting booked as that. To me, we were just Pretty Boy Larry Sharp and Dynamite Jack Evans. But, you know, magazines got to put a title on something or whatever it was. But they never said, like in Madison Square Garden, the Hollywood Blondes, Pretty Boy Larry Sharp and Jack Evans.
Did the office get behind you guys and start giving you a little push?
Well,
In New York.
this was our spot. What we did was we went on TV, get our hands up so we had a little heat on ourselves.
Right.
And then we would put over in house shows like Tony Gurry and Larry Zbyszko so they could come back against Fuji and Tanaka because they had to beat somebody that was good. So that was their job.
What are your memories of Vince Sr.? What was he like as a promoter?
He was all right. He was all right. You know, he was pretty isolated from guys like me. You know, you really didn't get a chance to talk to him. I mean, I do remember when he called me up and, you know, asked me to, I can't wait to get to this story. I wrestled Putski in Boston Garden.
You have heat with him, I heard.
Yes.
All right, go for it.
Or he has heat with me. I don't know how you want to say it. But anyway, I'm wrestling Putski in Boston Garden. I was never big on who won or who lost. I was big on let's give them the best match. But when people left a building, I wanted them talking about Larry Sharp versus so-and-so. That's, to me, and that's what I tell my guys. When you go run out at the parking lot at the end of the night, whatever match they're talking about, that was the main event. Don't make any difference what we say it is here. If they're talking about it, that was the main event. And I think that makes sense. So, anyway, I'm going to wrestle Putski, and it was Boston Garden, and back then they had an 11 o'clock curfew,
Right.
okay? And we were going to get to the ring about 5 minutes of 11. So the deal was I was going to jump him, beat the crap out of him in the corner, just work him over, shoot him in. He was going to duck the elbow, come off, hit me with the Polish hammer, and beat me 1, 2, 3, because he's coming back against superstar Billy Graham. He gets the big win, and, you know, I have a couple minutes of salvation kicking his ass before that happens. Well, as soon as the bell rang, he come over and he jumped me and just started wailing away at me. And he was a terrible worker. You know, he had no crowd psychology, nothing like that. And I'm like, fuck this. I said, grab a headlock. He grabbed the headlock. I suplexed him. And when I suplexed him, I covered him, pulled him up by the hair, 1, 2. And I did about 15 false finishes on him in about 4 minutes. And I manhandled him.
Right.
I manhandled him. So now it's time for the finish. He throws me in, I duck the clothesline, and he punches me right in the nose, gives me 2 black eyes and a broken nose. But it was worth it. It's not like the first one I ever had.
Now, when you went back into the locker room, was it pretty much...
He was gone.
He was gone already?
Yeah.
Did you get heat from the
He
office
had no
at all?
balls.
Was there any heat on you from the office?
I don't remember any. Oh, but I do remember this. This is getting back to the Shea Stadium now. Vince called me up, and I'm booked against Putski. So
Right.
I can't wait. You know, this is my opportunity. There's going to be thousands of people there, and I'm wrestling Putski, and he can't beat me. You know, no matter what he wants to do, he can't beat me. And I'm so psyched up for it. And Vince calls me up, and he goes, Larry, he goes, listen, I got a call from Inoki, and he wants to wrestle you in Shea Stadium. And I'm like, oh, Vince, that's great, but I want to wrestle Putski. And he's like, well, you know, this could be pretty important. And he goes, the problem is he only wants to pay you $500. And I'm like, well, what are you going to pay me for wrestling Putski? He goes, probably $1,000. That really made it a bitter pill to swallow.
Yeah.
But I said, can I have 24 hours to think about it? And he's like, yeah. And I called up, some of my friends that I trusted, and they're like, go with Inoki, go with Inoki. So I went with Inoki. And when I got there, now, this is going to ramble on. I'm sorry,
No,
but
this
this
is
is great. Me and a buddy of mine were on our way to Shea Stadium. And I got a case of cold beer on one side in the back seat and a case of champagne on the other side in the back seat, on ice. Not drinking before the match or anything like that. But I'm cruising. And 70 mile an hour, a cab pulls up on the passenger side, this far away. The cabbie puts his window down and says, my fare wants his autograph to my buddy. So now we're passing a pen and a paper back and forth. I'm signing an autograph, which to me, that was a thrill. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For that guy to make that cabbie do that, going that fast. So anyway, I signed the autograph and we're continuing on down the road. And I was pissed off because I wasn't wrestling Putski, so I left late. Now I'm an hour late, and I was never late. I was always like one of the first guys in the locker room. That was just me, I'm first. I'm
Right.
first, the first one there. But this time I wasn't first, and I didn't want to be first. And when I get there, Vince is standing outside the building, and he actually says this, I'll never forget, thank God you're here. So Vince McMahon, I remember you thanking God that I showed up at the Shea Stadium show. If you say anything different, you're lying. Because
This was senior, right?
yeah.
Okay,
No,
yeah.
no, no, no.
Oh,
This
this
was
was
Vinny
Junior.
Jr.
Oh,
Yeah, this was
okay.
Vinny Jr. And he's got my envelope full of money that Inoki already gave him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he's waiting for me. I'm an hour late, and he goes, "Here, thank God you're here." And he gives me that envelope. And I counted out, and it's like $500. And like, it's nice, but it's not $1,000. But I got to go do what I'm going to do. And then he says, also, there's a contract for 5 weeks for Japan in there for $3,500 a week. So it was a good move.
Yeah, it was a good foot in the door. How old was Vince Jr. around this period of time?
Well, he had always been around. He was the announcer.
Right. What was his role for the company around this period of time? Just announcing, or what was his backstage duties?
I don't know. I pretty much ignored him.
You just didn't deal
It was
with
the
him.
boss's kid, and stay away.
Okay. Now, in that match with Inoki, was there any, translation problems as far as calling spots, or was he easy to work with?
Oh, there was a huge problem.
Wasn't there something with the referee refusing to count Inoki's finish? or something?
Yeah, Roberto Roman.
What happened there?
Well, Inoki had this spinning back kick to the head, and he hits me with it, and I know I took a decent bump because I've watched the video 100 times. I have it right here in the Monster Factory. And anyway, I take this bump, he goes to count me, and Roman counts 2 and stops. And now Inoki's fucking fuming, and I'm like, what's going on? And Gilberto Roman was a Spanish guy. He goes, amigo, the finish, you're looking like shit. I'm like, dude, it's not your call to say it's looking like shit. It's your call to fucking slap the mat. So, we went into it again and, got into the finish, and he counted it, but Inoki was pissed off.
What was a bigger deal for you, working Shea Stadium or working MSG?
Well, Shea Stadium was like a one-time deal. It was WrestleMania.
Right. Basically.
That was the first WrestleMania. They
Okay.
just didn't call it that.
Was that Bruno and Stan the same show?
Um,
'Cause there was a couple.
yeah, well, there was a couple of them. One time the Samoans were on top against somebody, and, Bruno, it was Bruno and Zbyszko because they had that blow-off on TV. I don't remember what the main event was, really. I should, I guess, but...
After you worked Inoki, you went over to New Japan, and what was that experience like?
Oh, it was good. Well, I love Japan. I've made like 6 or 7 trips over there, and I have a ball there. Guys get over there, and they get depressed. Now, they're making more money over there than they make here, and their goal is to, see how much money I can save, which I can understand to a point. But don't make yourself miserable because you're trying to save money. I'm out, I'm fucking eating steak, I'm, drinking beer, I'm having a good time, right? And they're like eating fucking rice and beans, you know?
Did it take hard to get accustomed to the Japanese style since it's a little bit stiffer than the States? Or?
No, because I hung around Fuji a lot, you know, and he always had some Japanese shit going on at his house, and,
Right.
you know, I was sharing it with him, and he kind of like primed me for it.
Okay. Who are some of the guys you worked with over in Japan?
Well, I had Stan Hansen for a tag team partner, but I told him at the last reunion, I think he was more dangerous as my partner as he was as my opponent, because once he takes off his glasses,
You can't see.
he can't see. And he's throwing chairs and swinging bull ropes and bells, and I'm like this going to the ring, and I was like, dude, you're beating the shit out of me before I ever get there and wrestle Inoki, you know, slow down a little bit.
Right.
But he was a good guy, he's an honest guy, you know, and the most important thing in this business, if you can be on the road with somebody that's honest and somebody that you can trust, it makes it so much easier. You know, there's guys out there, you got to worry about them stealing shit out of your bag, or, you know, who's going to go downstairs and get drunk and, you know, mess up the bar, and the next day all the boys got to go someplace else because this guy was an a-hole, you know.
Right.
I never went for that. I always wanted to have fun, but...
Early memories of Bruiser Brody?
The first night I was in Puerto Rico, well, his first night that he was in Puerto Rico, I was already pretty well established there at the time. He came in and he took off through the crowd, like his style was, and I turned around and I said, that guy's going to get killed here. I'll never forget saying that.
Wow.
And it happened.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about that? Because you worked down there a little bit.
I was lucky. Basically, I quit a week before that happened. I had wrestled Invader #2 or Jose Gonzalez, whichever he was working at. I probably wrestled him down there 20 times, and he beat me every time. And I'm fine with that. Well, they're trying to build up to this big show, and he wants to beat me on TV, and I'm like, I'm Brody's manager. It doesn't make any sense to take the heat off of me. You know,
Right.
just don't even let me work. Just let me go out to the ring with him. And he's like, you're not going to do it? I'm like, no. And then the referee come over and said, you're fired.
Wow. Did you talk to anybody in the office at all, or you just pretty much...
He was the office. Him
Okay.
and Carlos. Carlos is going to back him up.
Right. Was it Victor Javica, or...
Well, Victor Javica was just a fucking money guy, you know.
Right.
He had no say. I mean, Christ, he had himself on top and didn't know how to fucking work. What does that tell you?
Yeah, you actually worked him a bunch of times.
Oh, my God. I'd rather have the gal.
Bad?
Yes, terrible.
Couldn't work?
No. Couldn't work. He knocked me the fuck out one time just in the turnbuckle. And he goes, I'll knock you down, I'll pick you up. He was a nice guy, okay, very nice guy, just didn't know how to work, had no business in the fucking ring.
No, you got down there through Gino, you and part of the company.
Right.
Okay. I guess your initial impressions of the territory, what did you like about Puerto Rico? I mean, a lot
The
of guys-
weather.
Yeah.
The weather, I mean, you get off the plane and the sun is shining.
Yeah, it's like-
What else is there? My condo's on the beach. And,
Isla Verde, or?
yeah, right in Isla Verde.
Yeah.
And I went down there, and I had a friend down there, Bill Howard. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not. Howard Newell, Radamai Seremus. Anyway, we're still friends to this day. Well, we had wrestled together in Charlotte, and he had a place there. He's like, yeah, come on down, and you can stay with me till you find out a place, or, find a place to stay. And Angelo Poffo was staying within a hotel or two, and the beach was right there. Well, I had some syringes, and I filled up a dozen oranges with vodka. Okay?
Right.
Put them on ice and took them out to the beach. Well, Angelo never drank, and neither did his wife. And there's nothing wrong with that, but they're like, can we have an orange? I'm like, Angelo, I injected him with vodka. And he's like, oh, yeah, right. I'm like, no, I really did. And he looked at him, and he didn't believe me. Like, help yourself. Half hour later, she was shit-faced. I know. It was great.
What are your memories of Carlos Colon? Was he a good guy to do business with? Easy to work with? In the ring?
When you're drawing him money, and he's all right. I always had in my mind I'd like to run a show up here and just bring him up and put him on the card and not pay him, so he knew what it felt like.
A lot of the boys say that. He said they don't pay sometimes and fuck with the guys.
He's like crime, it doesn't pay.
Right. That's awesome. Now from there, I want to backtrack because you did go up to Canada, I believe, way before that for Stu Hart.
Right.
What are your early memories about that little territory?
Well, just even breaking into business before I ever worked the territory, I heard all the boys talking about Stu Hart because, like I said, everybody lived around here.
Right.
And it's like, I got to meet this fucking guy someday. It was like one of my goals, not even to work the territory. I just wanted to meet Stu Hart. And was it Smith or Keith came down to Texas and refereed a match, and they're like, oh, we could use you in Calgary if you want to come up. And I'm like, yeah, boom. I load up the fucking car and away I go from Texas to Calgary, and I get up there.
That's a haul.
First night in, they put the strap on me and Ripper Collins. And Ripper Collins is who I had my first match with ever. So now him and I are tag team champions. And I had heard a lot about him being gay. And I don't care if someone's gay or not. That's the least of my worries because
Right.
I'm not into that. Brother, go do what you got to do. I'm getting some pussy. You know what I'm saying? Just go do your thing.
Right.
So anyway, he's married and he's got 2 daughters that are adopted. So anyway, the first night I'm up there, we have to go to Edmonton, and that's like 260 miles or something like that. And we hop in a car and go, and I was pretty much a newlywed at the time. And my wife, I get back and my wife goes, guess what? Well, I asked Ripper because I'm going to share a hotel with him. I'm like, dude, are you gay? I don't care if you're gay. I just want to know if you're gay. It don't
Right.
make no difference to me. I'm not going to tell anybody or anything like that. I just want to know. No, I'm not, blah, blah, blah. Well, when I found out he lied to me, I told every fucking buddy because that's how pissed off I was. And I wouldn't have said anything because I don't care who's gay.
Right.
But anyway, I get back and my wife says, guess what Barbara told me? I'm like, I don't know. What? She goes, you weren't at the door 10 minutes and turned around and goes, does Larry eat pussy?
Wow.
Yeah, so she was on the hunt herself.
Right.
God only knows what that household was like. But I will say that Ripper went out, he put us up at his house, give us a place to stay, because at that time, Calgary was very hard to find a place to stay. There was a lack of housing. And, he took me under his wing and did all that, but I can't forget the lie that he told me.
Right. Now, the travel up there was pretty crazy, too. I understand, like, especially during the winter, the guys would have to be traveling over the ice ponds and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
And Stu had this fucking van.
Yes.
Now, he paid me to take 3 guys. So I would take, there was 2 black guys called the Morrow Brothers.
Ed and Jerry.
Yes. And I forget, I would take another guy, and we would make the 2,000-mile trip and come back, and Stu would pay the trans. But somehow it got to where I'm in the van, and there was a guy there named Roger Smith. And he also wrestled as the Executioner or the Destroyer or some shit. But anyway, he's working. And so we're making this trip, and it's Reggie Parks. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
He does belts now.
Yeah, he does belts
Yep.
now. It was me, Reggie, and a couple of the other guys from the territory. And Roger's obviously laboring to stay awake because it is a long trip. And if it would have been anybody else, I would have offered to drive, okay? But I just like, fuck him. And I'm like, Roger, are you tired? And he's like, yeah. I said, well, pull over, put on your mask, and let the Destroyer drive for a while.
That's awesome. It's not compared to, like, driving down to Florida when all the towns were pretty much close. You could be home the same night, right? Down in Florida.
No, you can't be home the same night. But Florida was long trips. That was 2,000 miles a week.
Really? Did you do the loop?
A lot of guys lived in Tampa. I lived in Fort Pierce, which was just as convenient, and I already had a home there. So, I just worked out of there. The only tough part was Tuesdays was Tampa Television, and that night you either worked in Tampa or you worked in Miami.
Okay. For Stampede, for Stu Hart, did you ever witness him stretch anybody?
No, and he wouldn't even take me to the dungeon, and I don't know why, because I wanted to see it, but I wasn't going to push it just because I didn't want to go get my ass kicked.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you went to the dungeon.
Yeah, no, and I wanted to try them, and we're in the locker room, and I'm standing there. Stu was a weird guy, and like I said, I like Stu.
I went to the dungeon, actually.
Oh, did you?
When I did the Bret Hart interview up there, and he took us down there.
Okay.
Yes.
So anyway, I never got to go to the dungeon, but Stu's sitting in the locker room, and he's got a cup of coffee, and I just got out of the shower, and I'm getting dried off, and I'm not even thinking about it. being there, and he's like checking my crotch out, and he goes, "God, does it drink?" So I stuck my pecker in his coffee, and he goes, "Ah!" And takes a drink out of it. He was just like an off-the-wall fucking dude, which is what I loved about him. I mean, Stu was just like,
Crazy man.
yeah, you couldn't count on him to be normal. You could not count on him to be normal.
Do you remember a young Bret Hart at the time?
No.
No. Okay.
Nope.
Okay. What was his wife like?
Stu's wife, Helen?
Yeah.
I never really met her. The closest I ever got to the house, they had this beautiful home up on the hill.
Yeah.
And with these two huge picture windows. But they were so dirty you couldn't see in the house or you couldn't see out of the house. I mean,
They love cats too.
yeah, oh my God. Yeah, I'm sure you heard the cat shit story.
Oh yeah, you can tell it again just for those who might not.
Well, they had cats running around, and Stu's got some of the boys over making breakfast for him.
Yeah.
The cat shit on the floor, and he just took the spatula, took it up, flipped it in the trash can, wiped it on his pants, and turns the eggs. And he's,
Nice. Gotta love eating eggs there.
yeah.
Now you also went to in Hawaii. You worked that territory, and I believe Don Morocco obviously lives out there. What was your early memories of working with Don, or even meeting him?
Well, when I first got there, he was a little resentful that he had to drop the strap to me because I was green.
Right.
And it kind of pissed me off a little bit, but I just kept my mouth shut. And as time went on, we got to be really good friends, and Steve Strong was out there. And, if it wasn't for Morocco, I mean, because of him, I got to smoke some of the finest herb in the face of the earth over the years. But, we made a lot of trips together. He was fun to work with, and you could have a great match without any effort.
Oh, yeah.
When you're in the ring with a guy and you're bringing the house down and you're not even breaking a sweat, you feel almost guilty. But that's the kind of guy you could have a match with like Morocco. On the other hand, Steve Strong, as much as I like him, it was a struggle.
Sandbag.
Well, kind of.
Yeah.
Kind of.
What about Mondo Guerrero? You got to work a little bit with Mondo, I think, in Hawaii too.
Yeah, Mondo was all right. He was funny. Fucking. The very first day, we stayed at this place called the Embassy, I think it was. And he comes out to the swimming pool with his surfboard. I don't know what the hell he thought he was going to do with it. Now, the ocean's right across the street.
Right.
Throws the surfboard in the swimming pool. And jumps off the diving board to land on the surfboard. And it takes off like a fucking rocket through the people laying downstairs around the pool.
That's awesome.
Like, I got to get to know this guy.
Now you shared the locker room, some of the biggest names, obviously in their late '70s, early '80s. I just want to.
Or they shared it with me.
There you go. Yes. I'm going to name some names. I just want to have you, maybe you have some stories on some of these guys, or
Sure.
Pedro Morales.
Pedro was very quiet, kept to himself, nice guy. That's all, just kept to himself. If you had to work with him, you sit down and get your match laid out, and it would be fine.
Superstar Billy Graham.
Superstar Billy Graham was always colorful, so he was fun to make a trip with or spend time in the locker room with.
Easy going guy.
That's the one I knew was, yeah.
What do you think about everything over the last couple of years with him and his outlook on the business?
Well, some people get bitter,
I was going to ask you if you think he's bitter.
and I guess I'd answer that.
Yeah.
But, guys like Bruno are bitter, and I like Bruno, but how can you be bitter to a business that made you $1 million or more? What is there to be bitter about? I didn't make $10 million instead of $5 million?
Are you shocked that he went to back and did some business with Vince as far as the DVD after everything that Bruno went out and after the steroid trial?
No, money's the bottom line.
All right.
We're all whores.
Especially in the wrestling business.
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
No Mascaris. You got to work him, I believe. Didn't you work him for your MSG debut, or no?
No, my first match in the Garden was against Bob Backlund, if I'm not mistaken. But I did work with him in the Garden, and it was his first match in the Garden.
That's what it probably was. Okay.
Yeah, and he came up and Fuji had told me that they had worked in the Spectrum or someplace like that, and Fuji called a spot. Well, he would do part of the spot that made him look good, but then when Fuji was supposed to, get a little bit of heat up, he's back on his toes, doing that little dance he did, and Fuji warned me about that. So I'm like, okay, Foos, thanks, man. He tried the exact same thing with me. And in the middle of the spot, he stuck it to me. I jumped up, beat the piss out of him.
How often did you have to do that?
Now, when I say beat the piss out of him, I made him look like an a-hole.
Right.
I didn't physically beat him up or break his arm or something like that.
Right, right. Well, did any of the guys ever try to take liberties with you in New York?
No, not in New York. There was a couple in Florida.
Okay. Who were some of the guys in Florida that might have?
Pat Barrett was one.
Okay. You mentioned Jim Barnett earlier on. Do you have any impressions of Jim Barnett? Because everybody likes to do their impression of Jim.
Well, I really didn't know him that well. You know, like I said, the most time I spent with him when he was there watching Kevin and I have the match. And unfortunately, I mean, I would like to work for him. I heard he was the best payoff guy of all time. And,
Yeah.
you know, that's all I'm looking at is making bucks.
You got to work a little bit with Killer Khan? Memories of Killer Khan?
Well, he was up here in New York, you know, and I hung around him, but I don't remember working with him.
Right. As far as like his personality, what was he like outside the ring?
He was good.
Good guy?
Yeah.
Here's a guy that everybody's going to remember from Piper's Pit, Frankie Williams.
Yeah.
What are your memories of the ultimate, as some people call him, the ultimate job guy?
I love Frankie. He was a great guy. He was a good guy. He had a regular job. He made the belts. And he was just a pleasure. He would like light up a locker room. He was like not one of the boys, but almost one of the boys, you know, because his work was lackluster. And for some reason, Gino liked a lot of Puerto Rican guys, and
Yeah.
he was one of them. And, you know, him being Puerto Rican had nothing to do with it. It was just like his talent was a little shaky. But there's a match where I worked with him for 5 minutes in the garden, and I would love to find it. It's here somewhere. I'd like to use it as an instructional video, because in 5 minutes, we were bringing the house down. We had people standing on their feet in Madison Square Garden, Larry and Frank Williams. But he listened. And if a guy listens to someone that knows what they're doing, you can get it done. And one time, Hogan and I are going up the road, and I got to be going about 100, maybe 110 mile an hour.
What year is this?
Oh, 76, 77, something like that.
This is when he came in as a heel with Blassie, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're flying up the fucking road and smoking a bone, right? And all of a sudden I see lights flash. Like I said, been going 100 mile an hour for the last half hour. And I'm like, Frank. Oh, no, I was like,
Sorry.
oh, yeah. I said, I called him Hulk most of the time. I hardly ever called him there. Like, Hulk, man, it's the cops. It's the cops. So we got the windows down and, you know, trying to get the smoking shit out of the car. And we slowed down, and it was Frank Williams. And he gets out and he goes, man, you guys missed the exit about a half hour ago. I've been, Jays, I almost blew my car up trying to catch it.
That's awesome.
So we turned around and went back, lit up another bone, and passed it the other way, going the other way. We got there, Angelo Savoli, God rest his soul, he's standing there, oh boy, because, you know, he wasn't cared about me, but Hogan was the main event.
Right, right. Is it sometimes good to be really late? That way they're happy when you get there?
Well, like I said, Shea Stadium was
Yeah.
an example of that.
Memories of Rene Gallet. Did you get along with him?
He was okay, you know, just a run-of-the-mill guy. All right to make a road trip with.
Right. Do you remember young Kurt Hennig in like '81 when he first came to the
Yeah.
territory? What are your early memories of Kurt?
First time in the ring, good match. You know, him and I had a hell of a match. And he could work, you know.
You saw the potential in him, obviously.
Absolutely.
Okay. Memories of Larry Zbyszko working 2 out of 3 falls matches with him and Tony Gurria and your partner Jack Evans.
Hard not to laugh.
Why is that?
Well, just because the funny shit would happen. There was a place up in North Attleboro, Jack Ritchie's Arena. Now that ring stayed up there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. They just swept the garbage under the ring after every show, okay? And it was hard, it was a boxing ring. And Jack used to call me Laurel for whatever reason. And he tags me out, and he goes, Laurel, I lost my contact lens. So I go in, Zbyszko gives me a flying mare, and I said, hold me down, I gotta look for a contact lens. So I got him to where he pushed my head down on the mat, and I could look across it, and I seen a little light reflect off of it.
Right.
So I worked my way over to it, picked it up, gave it to Mario Savoli, who was the referee, okay? Mario gives it to this guy named Coogie, who was real good friends with the Kennedy family up there. And Coogie, as good as a guy he was, it was like he probably had on a $250 pair of pants back in the 70s that he bought in the 60s and never bought another pair. It was the same pair every week, but he had cash. So anyway, we give it to Coogie. Coogie puts it in his pocket. And I guess if you take a contact lens and put it on your tongue, or you rinse it off and put it on your tongue, the saliva makes it flexible enough so you to put back in your eye. And Jack is just delighted, you know, he's got this contact lens, he's running around shooting shit talking, and he bit a hole in it while it was on his tongue. So after all that, he ruined it anyway.
That's awesome. What about Steve Kerr? Didn't he come into the territory a little bit early on as a young guy, green guy?
In Florida?
No, I think he worked. I could have swore he worked New York just for like one date.
I don't remember that. I remember the first match he had in Charlotte. You know, George Scott comes and says, it was Steve Kern and I think maybe Tiger Conway Jr.
Yeah.
He's like, Larry, we got to get these guys over, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, heard the story, know the deal, you know, no
Right.
big deal. And Steve gives me a turnbuckle and jumps up, he's going to give me a monkey flip, and sticks his fucking thumb right in my eye. And number one, I couldn't see. And number two, I'm thinking to myself, this guy's getting a fucking push, and I'm not?
Right.
You know, that pissed me off.
Did you ever speak up to any of the promoters about your lack of push back in the day, or
No.
you just knew your role and that was pretty much?
Yep, that's what all the advice that was given me was keep your mouth shut and keep your job.
You talked about a lot of different travel in different territories. Early on, you didn't really fly anywhere unless you were flying to the new territory, pretty much, right? And then everything was pretty much a drive.
Right.
Okay. Did you ever?
In 1976, I bought a brand new Cadillac Coupe de Ville, and
How many miles did you put on it?
I put 2,000 miles a week on it.
It's crazy.
In 3 months, it was out of warranty.
Wow, that's insane.
And along with Valentine, Wahoo McDaniel, Paul Jones, everybody else that bought one. Like I said, we bought 13 new Cadillacs in one day.
You never went down and worked for Bill Watts, because from what I
No.
understand, that was like the most hellacious, travel schedule of all time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I hear.
Huh. Tony Garea. Memories about Tony Garea?
He could work. You could have a good match with him, but he was more worried about getting his hair messed up during the match than anything else, So you just go out there and go through the motions, but you weren't going to get hurt.
We had mentioned Bob Backlund earlier on. What was Bob like outside the ring? A lot of people say he was very protective of his spot. Did you sense that at all, or?
Well, he was very protective of the business, but his spot, I don't know. I never really thought about getting his spot, so
Right.
I wasn't too worried about that. But I did. Working with him was you had to be in shape.
Yeah, you
know?
worked him at the Garden, I think, in '77.
Yeah, I worked with him a couple times in the Garden, and I think once at the Spectrum. And when you were working with him, you were going to go to work.
Right.
There wasn't going to be no laughing, no giggling, no Tony Altamore stuff. You were going to fucking work.
Easy to work with in the ring?
Yes.
Did he give you a lot of stuff, or was he?
Yeah.
Some people say he was hard to work with.
Well, I never had that problem with him. But Bobby and I knew each other from amateur wrestling,
Right.
so I think that always gives some accountability or credibility to your opponent.
Who were some other guys around this time period in the '70s, early '80s that you would consider some of the toughest guys in the business?
Wahoo McDaniel,
Wahoo.
without a doubt. I love wrestling Wahoo.
Do you have any stories on Wahoo?
Well, just one of the things I liked about Wahoo was that he didn't take any shit from any promoter, and I really, really respected that. Because in the 70s, he was making over $2,000 a week, and he told Jim Crockett to go fuck himself. And Crockett said, on your way to where? He goes, on my way to pick up golf balls at a driving range if I have to, but I ain't taking your shit.
Wow.
To me,
Yeah. I want to talk about a little bit Johnny Rods. Memories of Johnny Rods.
yeah, the unpredictable.
Yeah.
I like Johnny. Johnny and I always got along fine.
You teamed up with him, I guess, working Martel and Grea too.
Yeah, Yeah, a few times. And Johnny was, what happened with, in my opinion, what happened with Johnny is he didn't go out to that territory like we were talking about earlier.
Right.
He started here and he stayed there. So as a result, you're green, you're doing jobs, and it's hard to give that push to. Then his work became good enough that where he deserved to be pushed, but once you're beaten so many times,
Right.
it's kind of unbelievable. And he always, I think, had a hidden anger issue. Now, did I ever have a problem with him? No, absolutely not. But you could just tell sometimes he was, like when he would go to the garden and have to put somebody over that was undeserving, he had an issue with that.
It's kind of ironic that you guys are both like trainers. You opened up your school and he opened up his school up in New York. So,
Yeah.
do you still talk at all, or
Yeah, we talk.
what are your memories of Ricky Choshu and Fujinami? You worked them.
Yeah, Fujinami, he was great. Choshu just, he was just another Japanese guy, but Fujinami was like real personable for a Japanese guy.
Easy to work.
Yeah, easy to work with and not have to prove anything. A lot of Japanese guys get in their head that they got to come over here and show the Americans something, and the Americans got to show the Japanese who's tougher, which is all bullshit. It's about having a good match.
Yeah, 100%. Now you have to have some good Andre the Giant stories. Everybody has Andre stories. You've shared, he shared the locker room with you.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, we were at this hotel in Richmond, Virginia, and I don't know the name of it, but it was where they shot Gone with the Wind when she came down the stairway. That stairway was there. And, anyway, that was the hotel, and he's standing at the front desk, and back then, double knit pants were what everybody was wearing. And he stood at the front desk, and he farted, and it must have lasted 2 minutes. I mean, it was just this continuous fart. Like it went down his pants leg and then like shook at the bottom when it was coming out. And everybody's just like standing in awe, like,
It's Gone with the Wind.
Yeah, Gone with the Wind is it. When I had the limousine, him and Frank Vawa, his manager, we bought a case of 16-ounce Budweisers, and I'm driving, so I really don't want to drink. I had one, and I waited like 15 minutes, and I really want another beer, and I'm like, dude, give me another beer, and it was gone. The two of them drank the case of beer. Then Andre gets out on the passenger side and pisses over the trunk of my limo onto the ground.
Wow, that's a feat.
Yeah, I guess.
Wow. As far as him in personal life, did you sense that he was very miserable?
He wasn't when I first met him, but as he got older, he got more miserable. And I felt bad for him because he was a very nice guy. But how many times in your life do you want to say, I'm 7'4", I'm 420 pounds, answer the same questions, how much can you eat? It gets old.
Oh, yeah.
It gets old, and that makes you miserable.
I'm going to talk about Bam Bam, coming up, but I want to talk about Bam Bam regarding the Andre. Did you know the heat that they had with each other?
I understood that there was some there, but I don't know the depth of it.
Okay. All right. The Wild Samoans, Alpha and Sika.
They were pretty easy to work with,
Did you travel with those guys at all?
No, well, I traveled with them a little bit, but, not extensively.
Right. Big partiers?
I traveled more with Peter Maiva than I did with Alpha and Sika. Yeah, they liked the party.
Jimmy Snuka, one of the top baby faces of the territory in early 80s. What are your memories of Jimmy?
What a night off. What a night off. You could you could go in the ring with him for 20 minutes, not break a sweat, bring the house down, and it was laughable. It was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm getting paid for running around the ring with this fucking guy. Because he was so good to work with.
Super over, too.
Yeah, well, anybody that's over, you're going to have a good match with,
Yeah.
even if they suck. Putski sucked, but, the people popped when you did something with him.
Now, as far as TVs, did you work Hamburg Fieldhouse at all? Yeah?
Every 3 weeks.
Okay. What are your memories of TVs?
Well, I had a pretty regular job. Like I knew I was going to go out either by myself or with Jack, win the match, get my hand up, and, that set me up to do the jobs on the house shows,
Right.
which was fine. But the best the best memory I guess I have there is Tony Altamore. He was the guy to give the cue of when to finish the match. So Monsoon says, when Tony leaves the ring, go home. Okay? Very simple. He's right there next to the timekeeper's table on one knee watching the match. Well, like a minute into the match, he left. So we went home.
Wow.
And here comes Gino down the aisle, pissed off, and he couldn't see far with his glasses on, so he's got his glasses up and he's pointing like this to get back in the ring. Well, what happened was the fire marshal told Tony, "You can't stay here. You got to move." So when he moved, we finished the match.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
How many hours of TV would Vince tape early on?
we would tape 3 weekends a night.
Okay.
So we do 3 hours in Philly, and then go up and do 3 hours in Hamburg.
Okay. What are your memories of Lou Albano? A lot of people say he would come to the tapings always drunk, get fired one week, and then rehired the next week.
Yeah, he would, and I think he quit 16 or 17 times too in the meantime. But he had this blue briefcase that was from the 20s, that had the stitches around it and shit like that.
Right.
And he brings it back in the locker room and opens it up, and he's got a towel that he stole from the hotel room, a dirty Hawaiian shirt, and a half a gallon of vodka. And then he takes a half a gallon of vodka in the middle of the locker room and then squats down like nobody can see him. Takes a big slug of it, puts the top on, puts it back in the suitcase, and then he'd go back out and break Vince's balls. He got drunk one night. He threw all the fucking monitors up in the air. Just was a wild man. But he was so over.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Pat Patterson, some of your memories of Pat. Did you get along with him?
I got along with him. I wasn't his type.
Gotcha. So obviously, was he? I guess all the boys knew about his lifestyle outside the ring back then, or? Or did he keep it to
He
himself?
really didn't talk about it. I mean, he kept it to himself to the best of my knowledge.
Right. Okay. Sergeant Slaughter, some of your early memories of Sarge?
Yeah, he never had blue claw crabs until I took him to Baltimore and we had them. Now he's hooked on them.
Ah.
So Sarge and I got along pretty good.
Okay. What was the ring rat situation like back in the early '80s? I don't know if you want to talk about that at all.
The ring what?
The rats scene. What was that?
Oh, blowjob every night.
Really?
Yeah.
Because today it's not like that as far as like the girls in the business.
Why do you think I quit? No, I don't know. They were just there. They were there. They were nice girls. Like I could get off a plane in Harrisburg, and there'd be one there with a case of beer on ice and the car running, ready to take you to the arena. Already got you checked in at the hotel.
Right.
And the next night off to the next town, and there'd be another one there with the same thing. Terrible, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it's not a bad lifestyle at all. Going back to Jimmy Snuka, I wanted to ask you, what was your, everyone knows the story and, the allegations against him and what happened with his girlfriend. Were you in the territory at all when that went down, or no?
Yes, I was.
What are your thoughts on that whole predicament?
I wasn't there. I don't know,
Right.
so I don't want to rush the judgment on anything.
Right.
Just whatever happened, I hope the truth comes to the surface, and the results are what they are, and
What was the vibe in the locker room after everybody heard about it?
just hush. Nobody
Hush.
talked about it.
Okay. From there, you pretty much worked everywhere, from like every territory there was back in the
Couldn't
day.
keep a job.
Yeah. What was your favorite territory to work?
My favorite territory? Well, Florida for the broads. Texas was fun, but it was so far from town to town. But my favorite territory of all time had to be the Carolinas.
Carolinas?
Yeah. I was learning. I was making money. I mean, to be a rookie and in the 70s and making $800, $1,000 a week, driving a new Cadillac, making every town, getting booked, and to go from Eddie Graham beating me in 15 seconds to go on 30 minutes with Rick McGraw or Bob Roop or somebody like that and actually learning how to work, you knew shit was coming together for you. You were on the right track.
You had mentioned Tony Atlas first coming into you and pretty much trained Tony. What are your early memories of Tony? And this was in the Carolinas too, I believe, right?
Right. George Scott called me in the office and he's like, Larry, I got a guy that I want to break into business. He's a Virginia State champion. I know you know how to wrestle. Would you mind working with him? And I'm like, nah, I don't give a shit. I mean, what are you going to say to the boss?
Right.
I ain't doing it. I'm going to stay home and watch soap operas. So, we trained at the Charlotte YMCA. They had a mat room up there. And the only thing I didn't like a lot of times, when it was him and I one-on-one, it was fine. But Gene and Ole Anderson would go up there, and they would beat the living shit out of him.
You would see that. You would witness.
Yeah, I witnessed that. And he'd be a rag doll, and then they'd sick me on him.
Right.
Which wasn't fair to him. To me, I just want to keep my job,
So you did what you were told.
Yeah, I did what I was told. But I mean, one-on-one with Tony, I never really had that opportunity. I'm sure he would have been a formidable opponent, but who knows?
Right. Did you see that a lot with the old guys, the veterans? Because was Tony a paying student at all, or was he a guy that they saw potential in?
No, they just saw potential in him, and but there was no easy way in the business. Then you had to beat the shit out of everybody that wanted to be a wrestler.
Right. You wanted to, prove that.
Which is what happened to me.
Right.
I got the shit beat out of me.
And today it's a totally different sport, and we'll talk about that coming up definitely.
Sure.
Did you know about Tony's foot fetish, or did that come later in life?
Well, somebody tells you they got a foot fetish. Who cares?
Right.
As long as it's not with me, he can have it all he wants.
There you go. I was going to ask you if you ever touch your feet, but I know he's into the girls' feet. Going back to wrestling and your schedule, you had talked about going to Puerto Rico in around '88 or '89, and you retired the week before Brody was murdered. What made you get out of the business? Was it just time?
No, I didn't retire. I got fired. Remember, I didn't do the job for Gonzalez.
Right,
so
but I thought that's what led you to. I thought you said you got out of the business.
Well, when I came home, what happened was I finished up in Puerto Rico, and I came home, and I was wondering what I was going to do. And my dad had always pushed me you should open up a school. You should open up a school. And I was like, that means you're washed up. And there was no schools back then.
Right.
There were no schools at all. I don't know what made me think that. I should have listened to my old man a lot more than I did. I can tell you that over the years. But anyway, I get a phone call from Buddy Rogers. And Buddy says, Larry, I hear you're home. I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, listen, my son David wants to get into business. And he's got a few friends that want to get into business. I can't get in there and show him what you can get in there and show him, but I can teach him the psychology. What do you think of the two of us opening up a school and you can train my son? Well, if it wasn't for Buddy Rogers, I wouldn't even wanted to be a wrestler.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what was your relationship with Buddy? Because you guys had a long relationship.
Yeah, it was good. He was a very smart man, and there just comes times when you just got to show respect. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that there was times that he didn't deserve it, but there was times that we could have had some differences in opinion, and I just bowed to the king.
Right. A lot of people say he was very hard to get along with. Did you sense that at all?
I never found that.
Okay.
I never found that.
Okay. What was the best piece of advice that Buddy gave to you? Do you remember?
Oh, I would have to think a while about that. I can remember the funniest thing that he ever told me.
What's that?
When I was training his son, David, he said, if you took a hatchet, Larry, and hit my kid right in the middle of the head and split it open, a cunt would fall out of one side and a dumbbell would fall out of the other. Because that was the only two things on his mind.
That's all.
I know. But he called it like he saw it. I mean, Buddy loved him, don't get me wrong, but Buddy was very, very frustrated because, when I was training David, Vern Gagne came to me. That's when they were running Totowa and stuff up in North Jersey.
Okay.
He's running towns, and he's like, Larry, as soon as you got David ready, let me know. I'll use him, blah, blah, blah. And David just basically come and said, look, I'm going to inherit the mother load. I don't want to take bumps, and I'm not going to take bumps. I'm done.
So he wasn't even cut for the business. He
No.
just wanted out of the
Right.
What year was this around? 80 what?
I was around 84.
84?
Yeah.
Okay. So as far as opening up the wrestling school, what year did that actually happen? Because that was the late 80s, right? The Monster Factory.
No, that was in the mid-'80s.
Was it?
Yeah,
Okay.
that was in the mid-'80s. Now, the first school I had was right here in Paulsboro when I trained Bundy, but it wasn't the Monster Factory. It was just you know.
Okay, because I thought the school didn't open up until after Puerto Rico, which was like, Brody got murdered, what, 88 in July?
Yeah, no, the school was already open, and I was having to fly home from there and
Okay.
from Nashville to take care of the school every once in a while.
Okay, okay. Let's talk about King Kong Bundy. What are your early memories of him coming to your school?
Well, like, I wrestled with his brother, Jeff, and his brother Jeff is like 6'6", 6'7", maybe 270 pounds, and he was a very good amateur. Like I said, he wrestled against Backlund in the finals.
Right.
And he called me up one day, wanted to meet with me, so we sat down and met, and he goes, Larry, I've got a brother that's twice my size. He goes, do you think you could help him out? And like, well, you know, let me check him out. So I took a look at him, and, you know, he was King Kong Bundy. And I said, you know, you got to start to jog, do something, pardon me, jog or do something, you know. And he's like, okay, and that was on Friday. On Monday afternoon, we had practice again. I'm like, did you jog it all over the weekend? And he looks me right in the eyes, and he's serious, and he goes, no, but I switched to Miller Lite. and that was his way of saving calories.
Right, that's awesome. Did you see potential in him right away?
Yeah, well, how somebody that big back then not going to make money?
Yeah, exactly. How long did you train him for?
About 3-4 months.
And then, now you had a good relationship with New York. He ended up, I think, in Georgia for the Andersons, right?
Right.
How did that come about? Did you?
He booked himself. No, he got pissed off at me because, you know, he got to the point where he knew more about wrestling than I did.
Right.
And just took off and ended up in Georgia. Then he called me up pissed off because he's like, Larry, they want me to wear a pink suit and shave my head. I'm like, dude,
That's
you're
fine.
down there, you're on your own.
Right. Did your relationship pretty much end with him at that point in time, or did you guys make peace?
Well, we've always, he is an angry person. I don't know if you know him
I
or
do.
not, but he's the kind of guy that wakes up in the morning, and if he's not pissed off about something, that pisses him off.
Right.
And, you know, I just seen him at a wrestling convention last week, and he had an attitude, and I just like let it go, you
It is
know.
what it is.
I'm not gonna let his misery make my misery, you know. I'm a happy-go-lucky guy.
Gorilla Monsoon, your relationship was still going on. You know, you guys were pretty much friends until the end, correct?
Yes.
What was his role with Vince's company, for those that don't know? 'Cause not only was he a play-by-play guy.
Well, what happened was, back in the day, he drew so much money, Vince Sr. gave him 10% of the WWF,
Right.
which made him part owner. Then when Vince Jr. took over, he wanted to own all the shares. So he forced Arnold Scullin and he forced Gino to sell them his points back.
How did he do that? How did he force him?
Well, you know, I wasn't there for negotiations,
Right.
and I don't want to say that he made him an offer they couldn't refuse, but he probably
He's
just
smart
says, I'm going to put you on a payroll that you're making more than you will be if you own part of the company.
Right.
And, you know, you'd be a fool not to do that.
Okay. Going back to the Monster Factory, who came up with the name?
I did, but it wasn't right away. You know, at first it was, I wanted to call it Buddy Rogers Wrestling School, and Buddy wasn't real big on that. So we called it Champion's Choice for a while.
Now, Buddy wasn't hands-on at all at this point in time. You were pretty much in the ring showing the guys, and Buddy would just pretty much put his name
Hanging
to the
around,
school.
yeah.
Okay. Oh, we were talking about Buddy Roberts as far as his involvement in the school. We were just saying that he pretty much was just a name on.
Yeah, he, you know, when his son lost interest, he didn't even want to be there.
Right. As far as, from what I understand, he had a lot of money, or did he not have money when he retired and got out of the business?
Oh, he had money.
He had money?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I never counted it, but I know where he lived, I know what he drove, and I know how he
He
spent.
had a Cadillac. I know,
He had a blue Lincoln that he ended up selling at
Carmella, right?
Carmella,
Yeah,
yeah.
I remember that. I drove in his car, actually.
Okay.
I was driving, and she's like, you know, this is Buddy Rogers' car. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Going back to Bam Bam Bigelow, what were your initial impressions of Bam Bam when he came into your school? And let's talk all about him, and as far as, you know, he's pretty much one of the biggest names you trained, right?
Wasn't there 2 minutes, got in the ring, And I had him hit the ropes. He did that. I said, can you do a cartwheel? He did a cartwheel, and you knew that he was going to be an overnight sensation.
You heard money signs?
Well, I don't want to say I heard money signs because I was pretty green at the school myself at that time. But I knew talent when I saw it.
Right.
And, I knew he had something there.
What do you mean you were green? You said you were green too.
Well, it wasn't like I had, I had not been in a situation to call up Jerry Lawler and say, I got a guy here for you, or to call Tokyo and say, listen, I got this guy. I just was a guy running a school trying to make $1.
Right. Now, as time progressed, you obviously saw, talent in him. You said right away you saw talent in him.
Right.
Who did you call first? Would you, he wasn't obviously ready to go to New York because he was still green in the business, so you wanted to get him established?
Actually, I didn't call anybody. Tokyo Joe was over here scouting for talent from Puerto Rico, and he saw him, for Japan, and he saw him, and he's like, how soon can he go to Japan? I'm like, how soon do you want him there? So the two of us went to Japan, and it was like, he got over like that.
Big time. Now, he didn't have any major tattoos at that point in time, right?
Oh, yeah.
He already had the tattoos on his... Okay.
Well, when he came
you were
in,
responsible for some of that, right?
yeah, he had a little starburst tattoo on the side of his head. And I had asked him, I said, would you tattoo your whole forehead? And he's like, why? I said, it's because I think it'll make you $1 million. He goes, what do you got in mind? I said, flames. And he went through the weekend, and he showed up Monday with flames on his head.
Did you go, wow?
I'm like, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So how long was he training with you as far as before you went to New Japan? Was it just 3 months, you said?
No, he'd been training with me a little longer than that. I don't remember the exact time, to be honest with you.
Okay. Looking back, was he ready to go to Japan, or was he still really green?
Well, he was still green, but he was so powerful. They had a guy over there named, the hell was his name? Mata or something like that, and he was supposed to be this big shooter and kick all the Americans' ass and the tough guy. Muta, maybe.
Oh, Keiji Muta.
And anyway, it was just like Bigelow got a hold of him, like, next.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what got him over.
Okay. What are your memories of going to Japan with Bam Bam?
Well, he was always exciting. Whenever you went on the road with him, the problem was he didn't know how to behave himself, and he always got in trouble, and it was a pain in the ass keeping him out of trouble.
Any problems in Japan?
None that I can think of right away, but when we were in Mississippi, he goes and picks up this 15-year-old girl and takes her out and cross state lines, and now the state troopers got us in jail because, I didn't even know the girl. You know what I'm saying? They didn't have me in jail, they had him in jail, and he's riding with me, so for all intents and purposes, I got to get him out of jail. Same thing in Asbury Park, he got in a fucking beef with a prostitute over a pack of cigarettes. Ended up in jail. $750 later cost me to get him out of jail.
Right. No, I've heard a lot of stories on you really bailed him out a lot when he was in trouble legally a lot of times. So
yeah.
You were always there for him. You had a relationship also with, did you have a better relationship with Jerry Lawler, or did you have a better relationship with Jerry Jarrett? Because you took him down to Memphis.
Oh. Yeah, they're both promoters. They're both liars. So, you worked the deal that you had to work.
Well,
and when I say liars, they lie to everybody. It's not like they were picking on me or they were picking on Bigelow.
nature of the business.
But they would say whatever they had to say in order to get, The last time he's like, yeah, come down here. We need you, blah, blah, blah. I'll pay you for your plane ticket. So me, like a dummy, jump on a plane and get down there. And Jarrett's like, well, give it to this guy, give it to that guy. And I still have the ticket.
Well, did you ever work in the territory, Memphis, at all when you were?
No.
Okay. Going down there, this is your first time experiencing what it was like to work with Jerry?
Right.
Okay. What about Jerry Lawler? What are your early memories of Jerry? And this is also Bam Bam's first major exposure in the States, right?
Right.
Okay.
Well, I'm sure it would have been a lot different without Bigelow, but they're just so tickled to have somebody that's refreshing and can draw money. They just kiss my ass in Macy's window during the Thanksgiving Day parade,
Right.
Because we went down there and we drew money.
Do you remember your first angle you did at TV?
Yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, I grabbed Lawler, or Bigelow grabbed Lawler and snatched him, and I took a can of red spray paint out of my pocket and painted his neck red and said he was just another redneck like everybody else in the South.
Wow. Now, could Bam Bam talk at this point, or were you pretty much his mouthpiece?
I was his mouthpiece.
Okay. Did
He could talk, though.
Okay, I was going to ask you, did he feel comfortable on the mic?
Well, I wasn't around him that much. You know, he did the talking after I was out of the picture.
Right.
But I was better at it than he was.
Okay. In Memphis, how long was your run there with Bam Bam? Did you just go down there for TVs?
Well, it was like 3 months or so, and then I would start, he would stay down there, and I would come up to the Monster Factory and fly back, and, like that.
Okay. Do you remember the Mid-South Coliseum, the sellouts?
Yeah.
Good stuff?
Yeah, oh yeah. I loved it. When you're a worker and you hear about all these different territories in the Mid-South Coliseum or this place or that place, you want to go there. You want to work there. I mean, for crying out loud, Elvis Presley sold the place out. You know
Right,
what I'm
right.
saying? Who wouldn't want to be there?
You also went down to Texas for Fritz von Erich.
Right.
Bam Bam as well. Memories of going down there. And how much of a hot commodity was he at this point in time?
Well, he was hot, but George Scott was the booker, and for some reason, as much as I respect George, he changed his name to Crusher Yurkov.
George is booking down in Texas?
Yeah.
Okay.
And made him a Russian.
Yeah.
And I don't get it. I still to this day don't get it.
Right. And you spoke up and he just didn't want to hear anything?
Didn't want to hear it. He was going to go that way with it. And it didn't get over.
Yeah, it didn't. Who were some of the guys that he worked with down there, the Von Erichs?
Well, he really didn't work with the Von Erichs. There was a big black guy down there. What the hell was his name? Zulu.
Okay.
He couldn't work with her. The problem is when you got somebody like Scott Bigelow and you're a half-assed talent yourself, they will dump impressive-looking people on you that can't work because you can carry them. But that's a hard night, Dave Meltzer has a column, which I'm sure you were aware of, and when we were down there, I read it one night, and it says the hardest job in professional wrestling goes to Bam Bam Bigelow and Pretty Boy Larry Sharp for having to work with the Ultimate Warrior every night.
Down there, yeah.
Yeah.
What are your early memories of Warrior down there in Texas?
He was down there and got along with him, of course, impressed with his body, and all he did was cry that he wanted to come to New York. I want to come to New York. I want to come to New York. I want to come to New York. Well, finally, he came to New York. And then in this very town, him and I, Phil Collins, shot a music video.
Right.
And the studio was brand new. The first thing he did was take his boots out of his bag, put them on a brand new carpeted floor, and paint them right around the carpet. And I'm like, did you forget where you fucking came from? It was, and all he did was whine and bitch and moan. Earlier in the day, he was up, he filmed Kathy Lee and Regis at the time. Hopped in a limo, come down here. There was nothing hard about it.
Right.
It was going to be like 2 minutes in the ring. And, just had to whine and complain the whole time.
A lot of people say he's very hard to work with and a prima donna, so I guess so. As far as Bam Bam goes, how much media press did you guys get locally? Because I remember as a kid living in Langhorne, you guys were always on the news.
Yeah, I wish I had some of those clips. Well, you're traveling around with a 400-pound guy with flames tattooed on his head. I've got newspaper clippings and stuff under the ring, and I mean hundreds of them. And over the years, I've developed relationships with all these sports editors and writers and stuff from the paper. And if they need filler, I'm the first guy they call because it's always a different story. I always got a different guy. And
Right.
they're like, Larry, you got anything for us? We're dead today. I'm like, yeah, come on by. We'll do something.
How much in real life did you manage Bam Bam outside the ring?
Well, probably not much at all.
Okay.
He was his own worst enemy.
Yeah. Did you have any role in getting him with New York, WWE?
Yes.
How did that come about?
Vince called me up I just got off the plane from Japan. I'll never forget this because I'm exhausted. It was a 13-hour flight. I come in and I just dropped into bed, and my wife says about 20 minutes later, Vince is on the phone. I'm like, what? She goes, Vince McMahon's on the phone. I'm like, tell him to call me back. Now, you don't tell Vince that, but I was so fucking tired, I couldn't have cut a deal. You know what I'm saying? It was
Right.
no way for me to talk to him properly. So I fell asleep, and he called me back, and the next thing you know, we're sitting up in his office, and the two of us are there together, and, had the meeting. And that's, I guess, when Scott's head started to change a little bit or whatever, he can do it better without me, or I don't know what he was thinking because he didn't talk to me, but
So you guys had a big blow up after the Japan thing, and you wanted to go into New York with him as his manager, right?
absolutely.
Yeah, and I think they brought in Humperdinck, I believe. Was his first manager? I could be wrong.
I don't remember, to be honest. I was probably so mad I didn't watch wrestling for 6 months.
Well, so you pretty much had a deal, and it was pretty well known in the industry where you would get 10%. I think some of the guys that you had signed.
Right.
And he definitely felt that you weren't deserving of this, and
Right.
you guys went to court over this, right?
Right.
What are your memories of the whole legal battle between you and
Well,
Scotty?
the whole legal battle boiled down to when we were in Tokyo, he was supposed to give me 10% at the airport, okay? He was making $5,500 a week. So, he gave me a nice chunk of change. And he said to me, listen, you're going to have to get a lawyer to sort all this out. It's going to become a mess. So, what are you going to do? Get in a fight in an airport?
And you had to ride back to the States with him, right? On the same plane?
Yeah, but fortunately, like 15 minutes later, I picked up this model and I sat with her and we had a ball on the way back. I didn't even know he was on the plane.
Wow.
So that worked out great. But anyway, it just, it lets the wind out of your sails, to develop that. And he just, I'm
Yeah,
gonna,
you were instrumental in getting into the
I'm
business.
going to do it without you.
Did you get a payday from the office also in Japan, or was it you just?
Well, he saw the contract and he got pissed off because he saw the office gave me 10%.
Right.
Okay? And he thought that should cover his 10%. And I didn't think it should. I had to deal with him.
Right. Exactly. So what was the outcome of that whole entire situation with you and Scotty? And
When we went to court, that was the last time that we talked, was in the Tokyo airport. 5 years later, we went to court.
Wow.
And when we went to court, the judge listened to everything and said basically, since I failed to negotiate with him in good faith, the deal was off. In other words, they asked me, did you ever try and call him up? Did you ever try to work it out? I'm like, no, he told me to go fuck myself.
Right.
I'm not going to continue down that road.
Did you appeal at all, or just let it be? And
I just let it be.
okay. Now, did you guys talk on the phone before he passed away?
Yes.
And what happened there?
He called me when I got leukemia. Wished me well.
And it was a sincere phone call, you think?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Shocking.
What are your thoughts on Bam Bam's success? He went on to WWE, WCW, and big star in the business.
Well, let's put it this way. Everything he done has came back and reflected to the Monster Factory. It's not like I had to be standing there by his side. He can't hide where he's trained.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it would have been nice if I could have got to go for the ride, because I think I could have attracted some more talent that could have done bigger and better things than he did.
What are your thoughts on his passing?
Listen, I don't wish that on anybody,
Right. Okay. Just the nature of the business, the way he went out, or
Well, I mean,
do you think you always?
he's not the first guy that died broke on drugs facing jail time,
Right.
and he won't be the last.
A lot of other guys came through these doors, not at this particular building, but at the Monster Factory. Let's talk about some of them. Raven,
Yeah.
Scott Levy. What are your early memories of Scotty?
Scott was he wanted to be superstar Billy Graham. That was his idol. And he had the body. I don't know if you've seen pictures of him
Oh,
early
yeah.
on. And he could cut a promo like Billy Graham. He had Billy, down to a T. And, he was a hard worker, had a good body, and he had a bankroll. So, he went to Portland and staked his own claim out there, and he could afford to stay there and pay his dues, where a lot of people couldn't go and survive on the what the wages were.
His parents owned I think his dad was involved with the newspaper industry or something.
Yeah, something like that,
Yeah.
you know. But Scotty, you know, never won it for money, and that being the case, it makes it a little bit easier.
So you saw the potential in him early on.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts of his career in the business? You know, he went on to become Raven and a big fixture of ECW.
Well, I'm glad he did well.
Gary Wolf, Pitbull Anthony.
Yeah.
Pitbulls.
Gary's a great guy. He still comes around and helps once in a while. It's always a pleasure to see him. Took him and Anthony to New Zealand a couple of times. And unfortunately, people got in their head like they got in Bigelow's head. And they decided that they were going to do better off on their own. Now, you know, Anthony's not here to defend himself, but if you talk to Gary, he'll tell you that was one of the biggest mistakes he's made. But everybody makes mistakes.
Right,
You know,
right.
am I going to hold a grudge against him? Of course not.
Chris Candido.
Chris, I miss him. You know, his grandfather was instrumental with him, and Chuck and I were good friends. I had some good matches with Chuck, considering the age difference, because
Right.
he was pretty old at the time I was breaking in. But that being said, you know, when Chris came around and he said, you know, Chuck's my grandpa, blah, blah, blah. And he was, you know, he was a very hard worker and he had good work ethics. And, you know, it's just a shame what happened to him.
Balls Mahoney.
Balls Mahoney. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
What's that? As far as what?
Just being Balls Mahoney.
Just the gimmick, you mean?
Look, John is the kind of guy, he can make you mad, but when you see him, you're happy to see him. You know, the last time he worked for me, he was the highest paid guy on the card. I gave him $1,500.
Wow.
He shows up 2 minutes before the place is done, and he's pulling a shopping cart with tapes and all kind of shit in it. And I'm like, John, I can't work like this. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? I need you to be here. And, you know, he was like, I'm sorry. And, you know, by the end of the day, you like him again, but you just can't use him anymore.
How instrumental were you involved with the Big Show's training? Paulie.
He lived right here in this town.
Bouncer.
Yep.
How did that come about? He wanted to get into the business? He came to you, or did you?
Yeah, he had a backer that flew out here. I think they were, he was from Kansas City, I think, originally, or he played basketball for Kansas City, ended up in Chicago with this guy that had a karaoke machine business.
Right.
They read about the Monster Factory. They both flew out here. And, you know, you look at him and you know he's going to make money, but I never counted on how stupid he was.
Why is that?
Well, because he did, the problem with training someone like that, especially at that point in time, you know, Bigelow had just went through and some other guys had just went through, and we would go out in town and everybody's patting him on the back, telling him he's going to be a millionaire, and you know he's going to be a millionaire just strictly because of size. Well, all that shit goes to his head, and he don't listen. You know, if he would have listened, he could be a much better worker than he is now. I mean, look how limited he is. What does he do? Who does he wrestle?
Right.
You know, he
Well-
gets Stephanie to slap him around and makes a payday.
What were some of the things that you were trying to implement on him that he didn't listen to?
Just that you got to pay your dues, you know. Don't be so cocky. We were in a place in Philadelphia one time owned by gangsters, okay? And I mean real gangsters. The only two people that didn't have a gun on them was me and the Big Show, okay? But they were all friends of mine. So we're sitting at the bar, and I got this little game, and I'm laying it out for him, and when he did it, well, during this part of the game, you do it with your eyes shut, and when you do it with your eyes shut, you hit a make-believe tree. Well, when he hit the tree, I cracked him in the forehead as hard as I could,
Right.
okay? And everybody's just like waiting for shit to start. But he just sat there like a little kid, you know, didn't even say, that pissed me off, Larry, don't do it again, you got away with it this time, you know, anything like that. He just, no balls.
Now, with these guys, did you have the same kind of contract you had with
No.
Bam Bam, or you just pretty much...
I gave up on the contracts because I want to get fucked out of them anyway. Why waste paper?
Okay. Tatanka. Memories of Tatanka?
Yeah, great guy, man. Loved having him around. Good work ethic. You know, he just, he was in Florida and bumped into Buddy Rogers in Lauderdale and said, I want to be a wrestler. But he says, well, you got to call Larry at the Monster Factory if you want to make anything of yourself. And he worked for Bally's,
Okay.
90 grand a year. Jumped on a plane, come up here for a tryout, went home, quit his job, turned around and come back. And that scared me. I'm like, dude, you quit a $90,000 a year job to try to be a wrestler? I thought I was fucking stupid,
Right.
you know? But he made it work. I mean, you know, he worked hard, he did everything right.
Is there anyone that you turned down to train that you wish that maybe you didn't?
Yeah, there is a guy that I turned down.
Who's that?
I don't know his name, but I can tell you a story.
Sure.
He came in with his father, and he didn't have any talent. And his father laid out, I was charging $1,500 at the time. He laid out 15 $100 bills on my desk and said, they're yours if you can guarantee me he'll wrestle Hulk Hogan. And I'm like, I can't do that. Well, the next week, he was wrestling for Tony Altimore, and Tony Altimore got that $1,500, and the guy never fucking wrestled Hulk Hogan. I should have kept the 15.
Wow. That's great. At least you're honest.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of other guys came through these doors. Sheamus?
Sheamus, yeah.
What are your memories of
My memories of him were, he was like a new kid on the playground, like coming from where he came from. And I've never been there, so I'm only going by what he told me. But just the things like the size of an apple or the size of a grapefruit was totally amazing to him, because they don't have food like that over there. You know, us in this country, we have an abundance of food, and people don't appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? But that's the first thing that got him, was like, oh my God, look at all this good food I'm going to be able to eat.
what year was this?
I don't remember.
Okay. Anything else stand out with Sheamus?
Not really. He was just a regular guy.
So you had a good working relationship with WWE at this time, and you still to this day.
As far as I know,
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Would you help get the guys a foot in the door?
Right now?
Yeah, I mean, like Sheamus. I mean, how did he get hooked up with WWE?
Well, he went back to England, and they saw him training over there, and they hired him out of England.
Okay. Also, Virgil. Early memories of Virgil.
Yeah. Virgil was a good guy. He just dumb and didn't want to listen. And as a result of not doing what I told him, you know, because he didn't want to hear what I had to tell him for his own good. He ended up with Fonseca, you know, and I don't know what they told him, but he was happier up there. And, you know, him and I are on fine grounds, you know, we have no animosity or any problems like that.
D'Lo Brown, he also came through these doors.
Yep.
Good guy.
Owes me $1,000.
Does he?
Yep.
Huh.
So he's a piece of shit in my book.
Why does he owe you money? Just
Because he didn't finish paying for his school.
Wow. Okay. Other guys that come through the doors of the Monster Factory.
And let me
Yeah.
just expand on that a little bit.
Definitely.
It's different if a guy don't make it. You know, I can understand him. You know, like I know Larry went to the school, blah, blah, blah. He made it. Okay? Never lent out any credits, anything. And just stiffed me for the money. And I will not forget that. And he'll pay one day.
As far as other guys that come through the doors of the Monster Factory, take us through what you train at the Monster Factory. What are some important lessons that you teach the guys that you've learned?
Keep your mouth shut in the locker room. Watch what everybody else does and stick to the basics. Don't worry about getting up on the top rope and jumping the fuck off because of somebody you've seen on television. Stay in the ring, on the mat, and learn the basics. You'll get to the top rope eventually.
What about a very important lesson in the business of ring etiquette? What are some of your lessons as far as that goes?
Well, you're always courteous to the fans. You always stay in the ring. You don't need to ever touch a fan or go out there and make any contact with a fan. It's no good for you. It's no good for the wrestler. It's no good for the fan. You know, it's cheap heat, you know, if you want to go out and do that. But if you can't get heat by staying in the ring, then I've done something wrong in my training, because they should know how to get good heat in the ring without going outside.
How long before you let guys work, just until you see?
Oh, when they're ready.
Right.
You know, if a guy's here 3 weeks and he's ready, he's ready.
Okay.
Other guys can be here 6 months and it's like, oh my God, I finally got to give this guy a match. But
Right. How different has the business changed from your days in it?
well, nobody has to pay their dues. I mean, do they pay me? Yes, but it's not like paying your dues.
Right. You just pretty much get called up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about promos. Today, the business has changed so much. Back in the 70s and 80s, guys were getting booked based on, being able to work in the ring. And today, like we were just talking about, guys don't pay their dues if they could cut a promo, and it's a lot of, less mat wrestling and more high spots. What are your thoughts on all of that?
Well, just to back up for a second, they were also wrestling because they got of who they know, not so much as talent. But, like I said, Gino Morella had a fondness for Puerto Rican guys, and they were all nice guys, but half of them couldn't work. I mean, I guess that's part of the reason I learned how to work, is going out there and carrying somebody that didn't know what the hell they were doing and figuring it out, listening to the crowd and trying to get a response.
Okay.
So, it was a struggle like that sometimes.
You also ran a lot of shows, and you formed a partnership with Dennis Carluzzo in the 80s, and you ran under the banner, I believe, WWA.
Yes.
What are your memories of working with Dennis?
Dennis was always exciting. His biggest problem was that he was his biggest fan.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but, we had a show at the Woodbury Armory one time, and it was sold out, totally sold out in advance. And he calls me up and goes, guess what, man? I'm like, what? He goes, I got Terry Funk on a card. I'm like, the fuck did you get him for? That's $1,000 airfare both ways to Texas and a hotel room. The fuck I need him like I need a little dick. Jesus Christ. And that stuff would piss me off. I mean, he was a nice guy, but...
Was he the money guy, or was he just, you were obviously the money guy, right?
Well, I would say, no, he was the license guy, because
Okay.
back then you had to be licensed and all that stuff, and he was an insurance guy. So
Right.
he took care of all the paperwork and licenses for the wrestlers and stuff like that, which I could have got done, but a wrestler don't want to do that stuff.
Exactly. So as far as like running shows, you had some really classic matches, I believe. Were you involved in the company when Benoit came here for the first time? He worked at Sabu. I think it was Woodbury too.
Yeah.
What are your early memories of?
It was, we didn't need him,
Right.
but he wanted to see Benoit versus Sabu. So it was like he was booking his own TV program. This is what I want to see. This is what we'll put on the card. And we're making money, you want to be a little bit easy to get along with, but we didn't need him.
Right. Bob Backlund also came out of retirement. He worked the show for you guys. Mm-hmm. And that was a big deal back, I guess that was the late 80s, maybe early 90s.
Well, Dennis, he liked to be like a big-time promoter, but there was guys like Backlund that wasn't going to work for anybody. But
Yeah.
since him and I were pretty good, I'm like, yo, Bob, you want to do me a favor? Come on down. And he came down for me.
Who did he work? I forgot. Was it?
No, I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
And
It
we
was a
had the
big deal.
Bushwhackers. That was a big deal.
Right. Early memories of Sabu.
I'm not nuts over his style. He's very good at what he does, so misunderstand me. But again, if you can't stay in between the ropes and hold the crowd's attention, you don't have to take out a chainsaw and slice the top of your fucking head off, to get people's attention.
How many years did you and Dennis have a relationship for?
I would say 10 or 12 years.
10 or 12 years?
Yeah.
Okay. What was your fondest memory of your run with Dennis? Besides drinking iced tea with him.
Him having a fantasy of sleeping with this girl that used to hang around. And I don't want to mention her name because she's still around. But oh my God,
it's not
he
Kathy.
was just consumed with, no, it wasn't Kathy. But he might have had one with her too.
Right.
But he was just consumed with this female. And she was nothing special, like, Dennis, you got to stay with your eye on the prize,
Right. You had some other really good, successful shows. Jerry Lawler came in, worked for you guys too. Out of all the shows, which one was your biggest?
I would say that if I had to pick one, it'd be Rumble on the River.
Okay. Was your idea pretty much just to run, spot shows here and there, and you never branch out and get bigger? You just wanted to...
Yeah, when you start branching out, back then, everybody was going to put Vince McMahon out of business. Okay? Yeah, well, we're going to do this, and we'll run Vince out of business. Well, I never had those aspirations. My job was to have money left over at the end of the night. And if it was once a month, it was fine. If it was 4 times a month, it was fine. But it was a good quality show. Let's have money left over. And if we don't need the fucking big names or the glamour and the glitz and all that stuff, stay away from it. And one thing that I've been able to develop here is we have our own little group of guys that are as big as stars that come. There's a little girl here that's absolutely beside herself over Tommy Macklin. She's going to be crushed when he goes to the WWE because that's her guy and he's going to be out of here.
Right.
She sits there and cries. I mean, Dan did something the other day and wouldn't let him wrestle because he had a shoulder injury. And she just bawled her eyes out, man. The fans here are into it. They've developed relationships with the personalities, and that's how it used to be. Now they just come and go.
Right. We'll talk about that coming up. I wanted to talk about Dennis, one last thing with Dennis. What led to the split between you guys?
Creative differences.
Okay.
I wanted to keep it simple.
Right. Did you guys stay on good terms, or was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
When you found about his passing, did that hit you pretty hard, or?
Well, when somebody dies that's 10 years younger than you, it always hits you a little bit. But he was always very anxious, and he was always looking over his shoulder because he thought he was conning people, but he wasn't. He was doing the right thing all the time, but he had set it up in his mind like he had wheeled and dealed to get something that all you had to do was do it the right way, and you got it anyway, or I wouldn't have been his partner.
Right.
But I liked he was in this little fantasy world, and that was fine with me.
Okay. What do you remember about Joel Goodhart and the Philly Wars?
I talked to Joel about 6 months ago, I guess, and he had the typical promoter's ego, and I kind of feel bad for him in a way. All he's doing now is selling insurance, and he's doing very well at it. But I mean, Todd Gordon's out of the picture, and then you see what that ECW going to the WWE, how big it's become, and I'm sure that's got to hurt, whether he says so or not.
Yeah, definitely. Talk about your relationship with Abdul the Butcher. We didn't really talk about Abby, but you've known him forever.
Yeah. The first time I met Abby was in '76, I guess.
Oh, wow.
And we were in Japan together. And nobody on the tour except Curtis Ayukea liked Abby. And I didn't get it at first. I was so green. I'm just looking at everybody like I'm here with the stars. I was just little Larry No Fuck. And, I'm here with all these guys, Curtis Ayukea, Abdul the Butcher, this guy, that guy. And I'm like, oh my God, they don't have a nice word to say about this guy. Well, the very first night in town, I'm making $1,000 a week, okay? Which was great money for me. I see Abby, and we go up to the top, the revolving restaurant or whatever it was in the hotel. It was a 4-star place. And we're up there, and I pick up the tab, okay? And the next day, Abby picks up the tab, and he picked up the tab almost every day for the next 6 weeks. And he goes, you're the first guy that ever picked up a tab from me. And I was talking to Curtis about it, and Curtis told me, he goes, you stick with Abby, you'll be fine. Because Abby liked to go out at nights, but Abby's illiterate, okay? He's not really, I don't want to, maybe that was a little too, but he's very limited
Gotcha.
for his education, okay? And so, but we're in Japan now, neither one of us can fucking read, so it don't make any difference.
Right.
We're just getting the cab and go, And we hung out together and, you know, made a friendship. And he says, nobody ever picked up a tab me before. Well, the last night there when we got paid, he says, Champ, he goes, you know how much I made here this? I'm like, no, he goes, I get 10 grand a week. And I was getting $1,000 a week and I picked up his tab. But to him, that meant so much. And after that, we kind of developed a relationship. And because when we got over there and we were like going out at nights and having fun, he was the nigger, he was this, he was that, you know, and I don't listen to that shit. You know, I judge somebody for like that. And the more they said it, the more it made me want to have fun with Abdullah, because there's Larry Lane and the Beast fighting in the morning over breakfast because they're so fucking miserable that they're trying to make $300 last for 6 weeks. And I'm out like, man, where's the prawns? Where's this? Where's that? You know, with Abby. And they're just made yourself miserable.
Do you still have a good relationship with Abby to this day, or is there heat there?
I wouldn't say there's heat there, but there's probably a little strain on it.
What happened there?
I honestly don't remember. And if you heard something, tell me.
No, I
because
just
it'll
heard there was
refresh-
heat, but I don't know why.
No, I think if I called him up, well, I can't call him up and use him, and I think that hurts his feelings.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm running shows, and I used to pick up the phone and say, you know, come on, Butch, let's go. I need you.
Right.
And but now at his age, you know, I can't do that. But he does the greatest stuff, like when they had WrestleMania in Atlanta. I don't know if you heard.
Setting up in the lobby.
Yeah, was that the greatest fucking thing you ever seen in
Totally
your life?
corny. It's awesome.
I know.
So I think they told him to leave too.
Yeah, like you gotta pick your shit up. He was set up right in the lobby of the hotel.
What are your thoughts on his hepatitis scare?
It's not good. You know, guys got to be careful.
Yeah.
Guys got to be careful. And you know, in Puerto Rico, I juiced a lot. You know, in Hawaii, I juiced a little bit. In Japan, I juiced a lot. Not too much up here, but you can't do that stuff anymore with
Totally
the way
different.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah, totally different business. Do you ever feel slighted that you've trained so many guys, past and present, in the WWE, and you've never really been contacted to do some on the camera work or anything behind the scenes? Like, you know, a lot of the guys from your time are there as road agents or whatnot.
Every day. I feel slighted every day.
Did you ever call the office and not beg for a job, but say, hey, look,
I wouldn't do that.
too much pride?
Too much pride, yeah. And I believe that it started years ago because, like Pat Patterson said to me one time, he goes, I can't believe what you've done with just a wrestling school. And I think they're fucking scared. You know,
You've been in business forever.
they don't think I can be a team player because I always stood up for myself. Years ago, Jack and I were going to start in Puerto Rico on a Sunday. It's Saturday night in New Haven, Connecticut. So during the week, I had asked Monsoon, I'm like, do you mind if me and Jack go on first so I can get a couple-hour jump going home, wash my clothes, spend a couple hours with my wife before I have to catch an 8 o'clock flight to go to Puerto Rico? He goes, not at all. So Jack and I just, you know, we're getting ready, and Zabisco and Gria's in the locker room. I'm like, come on, guys, you got to get ready. You know, we're on first. He's like, no, we're on last. I says, no, that's what it says, but Gino said, you know, we're going to be on first. He's like, no, we're on last. So I went and asked Vince. I'm like, Vince, aren't we on first? He goes, no, you're on last. I said, well, I asked Gino, you know, because I'm going to Puerto Rico and this and that. And his answer to me was, you should have asked the boss. So took off my boots, fucking threw them in my bag, and I left through the crowd. And Jack went with me.
Oh, wow.
Never got hired back.
So that's heat, I guess.
I guess. Heat or stupidity on my part, one or the other.
So I was going to ask you if you still had a relationship with the office, but that pretty much just answered my question.
Well, I mean, you know, there's been a changing of the guard.
Right, with Hunter.
You know, they've actually sent people here to scout guys. You know what I'm saying?
I was just gonna ask you about
No
that.
matter how much they hate me, they need good wrestlers, and guess what? The Monster Factory has them.
100%. Gerald Briscoe was just here recently, and he was scouting talent here. How was that? Talk about that as far as like a...
Well, number one, you know, I hadn't seen Jerry for years. It'd been like 40 years since I seen him in Florida. And, you know, I knew he had the job up there. But for them to send him down definitely spoke volumes. But like I said, I don't think Hunter has any animosity against me or the Monster Factory. He probably don't even know about it, you know what I'm saying? And Vince is probably senile enough that he fucking forgot about it.
Right.
But as long as they can get talent, you know, they're gonna be fine.
Did he see any talent when he was down here as far as?
Absolutely.
Okay. I need a paper again, actually. Do you see the WWE Performance Center as competition at all?
No.
No. Okay. What do you feel that should, I guess, qualify someone to be a trainer in this business?
A solid background of the basics.
Okay.
And I just want to go back to seeing them as competition for a second.
Right.
If you do you know anything about drag racing at all?
Not really, but
Okay, well, there's these things called a rail, and they got engines in them, they're like 700 horsepower, and they got wheels way out front, they go a quarter mile in like 3 seconds, okay? And then there's a jalopy over here, okay? He's a drag racer too.
Right.
But by the time the light changes, the other guy's already done. Well, that's a WWE, okay? So I wouldn't consider that car competition. What I would consider competition is other people that try to open up wrestling schools, okay? That down there, what they're doing in Florida is something they should have done a long time ago. Wish they would have called me up and said, Larry, you know, can you be a hand down here? Because I know I could, but they didn't do that. So is that going to crush my world? Absolutely not. Monster Factory will keep going forward.
gotcha. Do you think pro wrestling should be unionized?
Yes.
Okay. Why is that?
Well, just because it's so easy to take advantage of people when you've got no place else to go. There's no other wrestling company to go to. I mean, you know, I've seen wrestlers get hurt and have to wrestle hurt because if you ask for the day off, they'll say, well, why don't you take 3 or 4 months off?
Yeah.
Because there's always another guy that wants that job anyway, so they're not going to have any problems filling that spot.
What is your opinion on the business being?
And I just let me expound on that a little bit. You need to be qualified. In my opinion, every state should have an athletic commission. And if you want to be a professional wrestler, you should have to come to a place similar to this and get in a ring with a guy that's established and a guy like Dan or I sit there and say, show me a step over toe hold. Show me a reverse wrist lock. Show me a headlock. Okay, reverse the headlock. Show me a step over toe hold. Okay, and when you can do that, then you should be allowed to have a match. But there's guys that get in the ring that don't know what the fuck they're doing, that are hurting each other, and it's amazing.
It's crazy business these days, to be honest with you. You know, I was going to ask you about wrestling being unregulated too, and you just pretty much answered that. So,
Yeah.
Okay. Right now, Dan and Danny Cage and also Blue Meanie and Bill Wiles are your head trainers, I assume?
Well, Dan's my partner,
Okay.
and Meanie and Bill, you know, they help out whenever they can.
How's that worked out for you?
It's less responsibility for me. I think it's great.
How did you hook up with Danny?
He was a student.
Okay.
I taught him everything he knows.
Gotcha. And over the last, couple of years, even recently, it seems like the Monster Factory is getting rejuvenated over the last, year and a half. What do you attribute that to?
Dan.
Dan?
Yep.
Okay. And your name's getting out there again, doing conventions.
Absolutely. I got lackadaisical in it. You just, I'm tired of it right now. There's days I told Dan, I just don't want to be here. It's like, for me, remember when you were a kid and you used to go to them little carnivals in town and you'd sit on that boat that had a little about that much water in it?
Yes.
Well, that's what wrestling's like for me now. I've seen it. I've been there. I've done that. It's the same thing. It's not exciting. And it's sad, but that's the way it is.
I hear you. Do you still go to TVs or house shows or anything to check out, or no?
No, but I'm going to go to a TV taping here. I got myself motivated, and especially since Tommy's going to be working for them,
Right.
I'll find myself motivated to go.
Will you go behind the scenes or just go in the crowd?
I'll probably go behind the scenes if they let me.
Okay. Memories of doing the Morton Downey show. I don't know if you remember doing that with
Absolutely.
Thunderbolt Patterson, Captain Lou, Dr. D, David Schultz.
Uh-huh.
I think Jim Wilson was there.
Yeah.
Blackball from wrestling. And I think you were yelling reverse racism at Tony Atlas because he was getting the big push because he was black, and you claimed that he was.
No, that was Thunderbolt Patterson.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. What are your memories of that show?
Well, my memories of was a guy was talking out of his ass.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He was making $125,000 a year in the 60s and saying that wrestling is racist. Are you kidding me?
Right.
You know, if that doesn't say it all.
What was it like in the green room after the show took place? Did you guys just go your separate ways?
Yeah, pretty much. That's all. Well, Lou and I were buddies.
Yeah, so you
You
guys.
know, and Schultz was just a fucking idiot running around throwing water in people's faces and shit like that. He's mad because he wakes up in the morning. He's like Bundy.
Did you have any interaction at all with Morton Downey Jr.
Yeah,
beforehand?
yeah, because one of my wrestlers was his personal bodyguard.
Oh, okay.
That's how that whole show came about.
Oh, wow.
A wrestler named Davey G ended up, he lives in Secaucus, and he ended up working security for Morton Downey. Morton got talking to him about wrestling. He's like, "What do you think you could get some guys together?" And actually, we did 2 shows. And, yeah, it was fun.
What are your thoughts on, since, we're talking about the school here, thoughts on Tough Enough, and do you think it exposes the business?
Well, what's left to expose?
I was going to ask you about kayfabe and then, today in the business and compared to the 80s, do you think that it hurt it?
Yeah, I do think that it hurt it. It helped Vince as far as financially make money and get rid of the athletic commission and this and that. But once you tell a kid that there's no Santa Claus, Christmas is never the same.
100%, 100%. What went through your mind when you were given 30 days to live? We're going to get into your diagnosis with cancer here. How did that come about? Did you have any inkling that you were sick at all, or?
Well, I started to get some pains, and the next thing you know, I'm in Fox Chase, and that's the prominent cancer hospital in America. And, basically they're like, you got 30 days to live if we don't get this straightened down.
What year was this? Was this recently?
It was 89
Okay.
or 98. 98.
98?
Yeah.
Okay.
98. And the first thing on my mind that went through my mind was, thank God I did what I fucking done, because I ain't lacked nothing. I did as much as I possibly. If I died tomorrow, I've done as much as I possibly could cram into this fucking lifetime.
I was going to ask you if you had any regrets.
Well, everybody has some regrets, but you don't, dwell on them.
Right. Okay. As far as what happened with your health, like, you obviously beat it. You're still here today.
Yeah.
Did
yeah.
they misdiagnose you, or did you just?
No. They. It was just like one of those things where they, this might work. We're going to try it. It's new. We've only been doing it a couple of years. Right now, I have a port in my head with a tube that comes down through my brain. And for 6 months, they would take out 3 cc's of spinal fluid and put in 3 cc's of chemotherapy. And because I had what you call a smart cancer, and the cancer would get in the crevices of your brain and start to eat your brain up. And this would send the chemotherapy in the crevices of your brain and kill off that cancer.
Wow. So how long did you have until you were totally, clear?
2 years,
2 years.
Mhm.
Good. Cancer free today.
as far as I know.
Awesome. You do birthday parties here at the Matcha Factory. How did that come about?
That came about.
Ray Odyssey story here.
Well, it was, no, actually, it came about with my stepdaughter. We were planning a birthday party, didn't have enough room at our house, so I told my wife, I said, let's have it at the Monster Factory. So, we got over there, and they got all the tables set up with the, juice and whatever. And the kids had a ball. And it just so happened, I forget who had the outfit. I think it was Ray Odyssey. I know Ray Odyssey wore it, but I wasn't sure whether it was his or not. And he come out in that, and them kids just had a blast. And what happened was, when we got home during the week, the phone rang a couple times. It's like, this is so-and-so, Megan's friend's mother. Do you think we could use the Monster Factory for a birthday party? And just kind of snowballed from there.
How often do you run shows out of the school?
Every 2 weeks.
Right now, who would you consider one of your top guys?
Well, Tommy Macklin's going to go to the WWE. And there are some other guys that are here that are qualified. But I really don't want to give that up. I'd rather people watching this come and make up their own mind.
Do you have a website, too, that people could check?
Monsterfactory.org.
What do you think is wrong with the business today?
No regulation.
Okay. Do you still follow it? You pretty much said that you're, bored of the business.
Yeah,
You
no,
watch
I don't
TVs
follow
or
it.
anything like
I
that?
mean, when I get home, if it's on a Monday night, I'll watch it for a little bit. There's a couple guys that I like, but, I like CM Punk and a few guys, but
Looking back at your career, you pretty much worked everywhere, all the different territories, and you've had a blessed career, worked with all the big names in the business. If you were to put maybe one of your matches on videotape or DVD for your grandchildren to watch, what match would that be?
it might be myself and Terry Funk in San Juan.
Puerto Rico?
Yeah.
Memories of that match?
Yeah, it was just a good, solid match, nothing spectacular, but it would be a match that I could say, watch that and you can learn.
Favorite territory that you worked?
Oh, Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico?
Well, Hawaii, you got 2 islands, it's a little hard to juggle.
Is there anything that you want to talk about that, I might not have asked you, that you want to get off your chest? I know in the beginning of the interview you got very emotional, and we never really talked about that.
Got so far away from it now, I forget what it was.
I don't know, I sat you down and
just that you don't have to have any qualifications to get in this business. Any fucking Tom, Dick, or Harry can say that they're a wrestler or a promoter, and if they got some money, they got everybody kissing their ass, and they've never really paid their dues to see what the hell you got to go through to make it.
I was just talking to Tommy Dreamer this morning, same conversation, just how the business has changed, and today there's so many bottom feeders that have never paid their dues or never been anywhere, and now if they have money, like you said, they're pretty much money marks. They go run shows, and it's just,
Yeah,
it's so
and
bad
if
for
I
the
don't
business.
hire them, they'll run their own show.
Yep, exactly. So, well, we want to thank you for being here today with us. It was a great interview,
Good.
and I hope you had a good time. And
Yeah, I had a ball.
is there anything you want to
Brought
plug?
back some memories. Just that if anybody's really interested in becoming serious about being a professional wrestler, that this is a place to come to, or even if you're interested in learning how to promote or wanting to promote, you can contact Dan or myself, and we can teach you, and it will help us, and it will help you, and it'll be fun.
A lot of people don't know this, and I told you personally when we talked on the phone that I actually tried out at your school when I was like 15 years old with my dad.